So this is you just walking up to it. Okay, that's definitely a donkey or a horse's leg. Bottom half of the leg with the hooves still on. Could you smell anything?
Yes, the bad smell.
Bad smell.
Actually, I would say it's a terrible smell. Another feature of the den is that you get a lot of fleas, and they might eat you.
So yeah, a hyena den isn't prime real estate, really, for anyone else except a hyena. Fleas, terrible smell, and dead animal parts. So we've got 2 camera traps to check. What's the sweepstake? Do you think we're going to see a hyena? Yes or no?
No.
No.
But at the same time, if I didn't have hope, I wouldn't have installed the camera traps.
Covering both bases. Yeah. I'm optimistic.
Me too.
Right, let's go back and we're going to see a hyena, aren't we? Yeah.
So we are taking out the memory stick and our laptop is ready. Okay, so we've got
693 items.
Yeah.
These camera traps are often triggered by insects or grass blowing in the wind. But before long, there's something.
Here we go. There is some mammal, and it is a fox.
Oh, it's a fox.
Yeah. We got a chukar.
That's a mountain partridge.
No, it's a goat.
It's a goat.
It's a domestic goat.
Goat, fox, chukar, porcupine, the occasional human, probably a shepherd, but no hyena. Goat. On the first data card.
Let's check the other folder.
Okay, last chance. The second card has another 250 images to check. Come on, hyena. Come on. But as we approach the end of them, it's not good news.
Yeah, here we are.
Oh, no. No. So there's nothing. There's no fairy tale ending. No last-minute triumph. After all our efforts, the hyena has eluded us.
On one hand, it's a pity we didn't see the hyena, but it also makes me think, where did it go? Did it follow the herds of livestock? Maybe it was even a pregnant female. It might have given birth and be lying low somewhere. But we must never give up hope. We have to carry on working, carry on researching, carry on monitoring. We have to do all these things to discover the truth.
We're living through what's been called the 6th mass extinction, and what the late US biologist E.O. Wilson dubbed the age of loneliness, as humans take a wrecking ball to global biodiversity. But Ismail and Mirzo are determined to persevere, to do everything they can to save a species that's clinging on against all the odds. That's all from this edition of Assignment and me, Antonia Bolingbroke-Kent. The producer was Mike Gallagher.
That was Assignment from the BBC. I'm Saroja Coelho, and this is CBC Radio 1. Have a great day.
Well, good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio, and you're on CBC. And thanks for joining us. We're on the air with your morning show until 8:37 a.m. We're live in downtown Winnipeg, and as mentioned, 89.3 FM, 990 a.m. on the app, but also on YouTube this morning. So wherever you're joining us, thank you for being here. It is Thursday, August 14th. Today in Winnipeg, mix of sun and cloud, 30% chance of some showers, and late this afternoon, a risk of a thunderstorm as well. So our actual high in Winnipeg is going to be right around 29 degrees with humidex 37. So really sticky today in the city. Thompson's going to get 10 to 20 millimeters of rain expected through the day, a high of 17. Brandon looking for a chance of showers this morning as well. Could be sunny a little late this afternoon for you, a high of 28. Again, though, humidex will make it feel like 35. So very sticky. Good morning to the team. Hello, Sierra Sanders. Sierra directs the program. We'll be on air covering that commute. Good morning, Mr. Abby Adeyemi, who is behind the controls, our senior tech on the show. Abby covers the weather. So we'll hear him on air in a bit. And Ezeka Abdelatif is also with us this morning, our producer behind our YouTube stream, waving hello, which is why I'm waving back. All right, let's get to Matt Humphrey. He's here for Heather Wells with our news. And this morning at 2 minutes to 8 with our headlines. Hi.
Good morning. A Chinese tariff on Canadian canola seed is set to come into effect today. The duty of nearly 76% comes a year after China launched an anti-dumping investigation into Canadian canola. The investigation was in response to a Canadian tariff on Chinese electric vehicles. Prairie premiers, including Wabkanu, and farmers have urged the federal government to speak constructively with China to resolve the issue. We'll hear more on that. And the province says it's planning to search the Brady Road landfill more extensively for Tanya Niepanak, a missing Winnipeg woman who disappeared more than a decade ago. We'll hear from her family at the bottom of the hour as well.
All right, thanks, Matt.
Back soon.
Also should mention here, I mentioned the rain and what's happening with some systems, but there is actually a severe thunderstorm watch that has been issued, and that's in effect for the Parkland region. So if you're up around Dauphin, Russell, Roblin, your skies could be getting dark. Well, this hour on the program, we have a live interview right after World Report about how a Winnipegger is using fitness and community to empower and mentor Black youth. And we'll hear why he says it's important at this time in Winnipeg especially, so stay tuned. Also, peak hurricane season's ramping up. There's fears that federal cuts, though, might affect the U.S.'s ability to accurately track hurricanes. So we're going to look at that with one of our reporters. Right now, though, it's time for World Report.
Today on Q.
I'm Jill Deacon, sitting in for Tom Power. The Juno Award-winning artist Toby talks about why he is intentional about creating music that champions vulnerability and social change.
He's so good. She like he's so good to me.
And how his new album is a mixture of both ego and humility.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Canada's largest airline is expected to start grounding flights today in preparation for a potential flight attendant strike this weekend. Air Canada says it is offering refunds and will do its best to rebook travelers, but more than 100,000 passengers could be affected every day. The CBC's Linda Ward is at Toronto Pearson International Airport this morning. Linda, do you have a sense of how passengers are already being affected?
Well, taking a look at the departures board here at Terminal 1, it is business as usual, at least so far, but we know that is definitely going to change through the day. Air Canada says they will be canceling flights today and tomorrow. This all part of a gradual shutdown ahead of a possible strike and lockout if no deal is reached by early Saturday. But travelers here who've been waiting a long time for a vacation aren't letting the uncertainty stop them. I met the Ramos Richalska family. Mom Ivana says they'll take their chances.
Hopefully they said they could try to shift us with another airline, or we'll just have to repurchase tickets.
So they don't want to miss out. They don't want to disappoint the kids. And they say they're willing to deal with a couple of extra days stranded in Miami if they have to.
What is Air Canada doing for passengers?
Air Canada says they've given passengers the option to change their flight from August 15th to August 18th if that ticket was purchased no later than yesterday for another flight between August 21st and September 12th. Now, if their flight is canceled, they'll try to rebook people on the first available flight with another airline, but remember, this is peak travel season and space is limited. They're saying passengers can also choose a refund. They do have obligations to passengers under passenger protection regulations. They have to communicate flight cancellations through phone, text, email. They have to provide options to get you where you're going within 48 hours. And if they can't do that, they have to offer a refund.
Thanks, Linda.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Linda Ward reporting from Toronto Pearson International Airport. A wildfire in New Brunswick's Miramichi region is being called beyond control by officials. In other fires across the Maritimes, crews are making progress, and rain is expected to give some help following weeks of hot and dry conditions. Brett Ruskin reports from Halifax.
North of Miramichi, New Brunswick this morning, an out-of-control fire has grown to more than 1,300 hectares in size. There's also at least 2 smaller fires that have popped up over the past day. There is some rain in the forecast, and officials hope it will be enough to get a handle on the fire, says New Brunswick's Minister of Natural Resources, John Herron.
When we have that window of opportunity, when things get get dampened, we need to go at it.
Meanwhile, in Moncton, a fire outside the city is now considered contained after days of work on the ground by firefighters and in the air from water bombers. Those same bombers had been shared with Nova Scotia to help knock down a fire near one of Halifax's busy shopping centres. That fire is now being held. At a news conference yesterday, officials said the fire started as a result of human activity, with crews finding an open and unattended fire in the woods when they arrived on scene. Officials also said over the span of 24 hours, they've had to respond to 17 new fires, racing to answer the call, dousing the flames, then heading to the next scene.
Don't be around the woods. Respect the law.
Nova Scotia's premier urges residents to follow the new regulations banning activities in the woods and says the region still has a tough few weeks ahead with these dry conditions. Brett Ruskin, CBC News, Halifax.
The House of Commons and Canada's cybersecurity agency are investigating a data breach. CBC News obtained an internal email telling parliamentary staff a malicious actor gained access to a database, and it contained information used to manage computers and mobile devices, including employees' names, job titles, and office locations. House of Commons staff are being warned info gathered in the breach could be used to target and impersonate parliamentarians. California Governor Gavin Newsom is poised to follow through on his threat of tit-for-tat gerrymandering. Texas Republicans are still pushing ahead with plans to redraw electoral districts and change the map to favor their party. Now Newsom is about to do the same thing in California so he can give Democrats a boost. Steve Futterman has more.
California's Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom will officially announce today what he plans to do to counter efforts by Republicans in Texas to change the congressional maps.
We are trying to defend democracy as opposed to see it destroyed district by district.
As Texas Republicans continue to try to redraw their congressional maps to possibly get 5 more GOP members into the U.S. House, Newsom says he will fight fire with fire. Normally, state congressional maps are redrawn every 10 years, following the U.S. Census. The last census was in 2020. The redrawings often turn into contentious battles, with the party in power in each state trying to manipulate the map to its advantage. But Texas is trying to do it midway through the normal 10-year cycle, and President Trump is all for it.
We have an opportunity in Texas to pick up 5 seats. And we are entitled to 5 more seats.
Today, Newsom is expected to call for a special election in November. Californians would be asked to approve a new map redrawn to favor Democrats, but this battle could be expanding beyond California and Texas. Other highly partisan states on both sides are now discussing changing their maps as well. Steve Futterman for CBC News, Los Angeles.
More than 100 humanitarian groups are accusing Israel of weaponizing aid to Gaza. They say in a letter the regulations introduced in March have slowed aid to a trickle. Christopher Lockyer is with Doctors Without Borders.
We're hanging on by a thread in terms of essential supplies, medicine. We got a few pallets in a week or so ago, but compared to the need of the entire population of Gaza, what we're getting in is absolutely minuscule.
The aid groups say Israel's registration requirements are designed to erode their independence. They also accuse Israel of censoring humanitarian reporting on the crisis in Gaza. Israel says the rules are there to make sure Hamas does not get the aid. Human Rights Watch is denouncing a new law in Peru and accusing the government there of granting impunity to security forces involved in serious crimes.
Con esta amnistía histórica, el Perú está honrando a sus defensores.
That is Peru's President, Dina Boluarte, granting amnesty to military and police officers accused of human rights abuses in a decades-old conflict. An estimated 70,000 people were killed between 1980 and 2000 in a war between Peru's military and the Shining Path communist insurgency. More than 150 security officials were sentenced for crimes they committed in that time. But those sentences will now be overturned, and this pardon effectively halts another 600 pending trials. Tropical storm Erin could bring heavy rain and high winds to Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands this weekend and perhaps affect the eastern United States next week. But some people in the U.S. are getting ready for more than a storm. They are worried about how federal cuts will affect the agencies that study and forecast hurricanes. Katie Nicholson has that story.
I apologize. This is just horrific.
Veteran broadcast meteorologist John Morales broke down on air as Hurricane Milton rapidly intensified off the Florida coast last October. This year, something else is upsetting him.
We're down 560 people in the U.S. National Weather Service. This is not allowing us to release our weather balloons as frequently as we would. Normally at any weather office, they're done twice a day. Now they're down to once or 0 times per day.
The Trump administration cut hundreds of jobs from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and its National Weather Service. Last week, the administration greenlit hiring 450 people at the Weather Service, but it's unlikely they'll be in place in time for peak hurricane season. Morales worries the cuts could impact how many hurricane hunter flights fly into the storms and collect data like they did during Milton.
It's very likely that without that hurricane hunter mission, we would have not seen how rapidly the hurricane was intensifying. So that's how crucial this information is, to get the aircraft reconnaissance data feeding constantly.
And accuracy is crucial for emergency managers.
We're tied at the hip with NOAA and the National Weather Service, so they have an actual seat here.
In Miami-Dade County, Pete Gomez walks through the Emergency Management Command Center he oversees.
Well, if we're not getting timely, accurate information, then we can't make timely, accurate decisions.
NOAA also shares information with Canada during hurricane season. Environment and Climate Change Canada says it has contingencies, relationships with other national hydrometeorological bodies it can work with. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Miami.
That is the latest from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is CBC's Information Radio. We're live on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and YouTube in downtown Winnipeg. Thanks for being here. It's going to rain, everybody. It is actually already raining in parts of the province. There's also a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for the Parkland region. Abby's going to tell us all about this in a moment when we get into our weather for our Thursday here. In addition, this hour, let's talk about what else we have coming up. How Winnipeggers using fitness and community to empower Black youth. This is part of something that's ongoing in our city, but this month specifically, there's something special happening. So we're going to tell you all about it and all about how those things are coming together. In addition, a report from Katie Nicholson from our national desk. Peak hurricane season is ramping up. There's fears that these deep federal cuts in the United States might affect that country's ability to accurately track hurricanes. So we're going to talk about that. Stay with us. And everybody's wondering about Air Canada, right? We're right in the thick of the summer here and what's going on with the flight attendants. We will get more information about that beyond what you heard on World Report. We have a full interview about what's happening in the labor action there, and that's coming up at 10 to 7. Right now, though, 6:11 a.m. is the time, and Matt Humphreys here with headlines. Hi, Matt.
Good morning. The province says it's planning to search the Brady Road landfill for Tanya Nepanak, a missing Winnipeg woman who disappeared more than a decade ago. The premier says the search will follow the search for Ashley Shingoose, one of 4 women killed by a Winnipeg serial killer in 2022. The search for Nepanak, who went missing in 2011, is in the planning stage right now. And an evacuated Manitoba First Nation left in the dark after wildfires knocked out power says the return of residents could be fast-tracked if the community was outfitted with generators, substitute generators. But Manitoba Hydro says it's focusing on infrastructure repairs instead. At the bottom of the hour, we'll hear the response from Pakatawakan leadership.
All right, thanks very much, Matt.
Back soon.
As I mentioned, Abby Adiemi is watching what's going on with the weather, as always. Hey.
Hi, Marcy. Preparing for the weekend, and we saw rain overnight in the Brandon and Dauphin region.
Started already, eh?
It started. For the Dauphin region, I refreshed my page now. The rain seems to be tapering off, and that thunderstorm watch in effect for the Parkland region has ended. However, you're still going to get a rain still coming your way. Looking at the forecast for today, southern Manitoba Manitoba will stay hot and humid. In the central part, we'll see more showers and some thunderstorms to come. And of course, it's going to stay cooler with rain also on its way for the northern region. Winnipeg right now, we are seeing 17 degrees, partly cloudy outside. Expect a mix of sun and clouds today with only a slim chance of showers or maybe some thunderstorms late in the morning. Our highs would be around 29, but with the humidity factored in, Marcy, it's going to be feeling close to 37, 38 for the Red River Valley region. Winds will be coming from the south, but it will be mild. And that's similar conditions we're going to be seeing in the southern part of the province. We're already seeing 16 and 17 degrees at this time. Most of the areas in the south will warm up close to 31 degrees, and it's going to feel hotter than that. However, up north, the powerful influence comes in Churchill. We're only seeing 6 degrees in Churchill at this time and 15 in the PA. Rain actually tapering off in that region. We have rain in the PA and Flin Flon at this time. That should taper off, and then it's going to be on and off for the rest of the day. So down south, Marcy, we're not getting that rain. It's going to be more like muggy today.
Okay.
Muggy. Close.
That's all right.
The humidity will be around 37.
I'm saying that's all right. I mean, that's really muggy and sticky, but for the Bomber game, it's all right because Sierra's reminding us with her jersey on
she's
today.
going blue.
Yeah, it's they're home tonight.
Yeah, they are.
Playing Ottawa and really need to win.
4-4.
Like
they need
really,
a win.
Really
they
need
a
to
win.
And last week was kind of a shame, but I mean, it was a good game. I'm not complaining as a fan. Came down to the end, right? 1 point. But they just couldn't hang on to their lead.
I mean, 17-point lead, and you kind of let the other team
I shouldn't
take
call it
you
a good
over.
Game. Everyone's going to start writing in and saying, what about the second half? Of
Exactly,
that game, right?
exactly.
Yeah. All right, we'll see what happens. What do you know about the commute this morning?
It's moving along smoothly so far as we kick off the show here and kick off your Thursday morning drive commute. We're kicking off the show here this morning, so not too much to talk about right now, but who knows? Things usually, the trend this week has been, it picks up in the last half of the show. So I'd love to hear if something is getting in your way, whether you were here in the city or out on the highways. I'd love to know so I can let your fellow commuters know about it. You can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number is 204-788-3093.
Well, up first on the show this morning, what does it take to build a leader? If you were to ask my next guest, Stanislas Bell, he would say that the strength and connection are 2 key ingredients. That question, though, is something that he says is constantly on his mind. He's the creator of a camp called Camp SCB. It's a 4-week mentorship program. It's for Black youth that combines fitness and mentorship, and it's happening this month in Winnipeg. It is free, and some of the things are happening over at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights next week. They've got a whole bunch of speakers coming in, and Stanislaw joins us now in studio to talk more about it. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
And also with you is your little sister?
My little sister.
Yes. Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm great.
Good. This is Amor Sofia Teki with us this morning. So let's get the thinking behind this. First of all, what does SCB stand for?
SCB stands for Strength, Curiosity, and Boldness.
Okay. And why is this important to you? I mentioned that this is on your mind to really empower young Black people in Manitoba.
Well, I was a young Black youth, a few years ago, and I know the reality of the situation. Working at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, seeing, tons of students and Black youth and youth in general coming through the doors have really opened my mind about, what's important, what needs to happen. And also, about a couple of years ago, I had a terrible experience at the hospital here where I almost lost my life. Yeah, as a result of racism. And coming out of that experience, I realized that it's important to empower community, empower youth, and create some more leaders for tomorrow.
Can I ask what happened? You said you almost lost your life. Racism was involved.
Yeah.
Were you ignored in hospital, or I just trying to get a sense
absolutely. No. The doctors knew what I had, and I was diagnosed, and then what happened is I started getting treatment. And then they stopped giving me treatment, left me in a room for over 12 hours.
Okay.
And a friend of mine, who's actually the owner of the gym that I go to where we host our sessions, came to see me and found out that I was in isolation for something that wasn't contagious.
Got it.
So they knew what I had, but still decided to put me in isolation with no treatment for over 12 hours.
Okay. And when you talk about empowering youth and you relate this to yourself, did something stop you from speaking up for yourself? I understand, when you were going through this, like part of what you want to empower youth to do is in any situation to know and to come forward and to be bold, as your, name suggests.
Yeah, actually, this experience emboldened me because I realized that when people from my community go to a hospital, for example, there's two harsh realities that happen after an experience of that nature. They either go home and don't want to talk about it, or they die. But in both cases, no one talks and this remains silent. So I want people to get out of silence, have a voice, and know the importance of their voice for the community.
How does the camp actually work, the SCB camp? So how do you combine fitness and mentorship? Are we doing squats while we're listening to inspirational speakers, or what's going on?
Well, kind of, but not really. So what we do is the program is two-part. It's twofold. We have the fitness sides where we really engage the youth into exercises that connect them to leadership skills, consistency, discipline, and things of that nature. And then we bring in leaders from the community to share galvanizing experiences and inspire the participants. I myself too are part of the galvanizing part and the inspirational part and trying to connect with the kids. But I want to show them that there's not just one way of doing things. We have powerful leaders in the community, and it's important that they also share some of their experiences to show that there's no one way of doing things. We all matter, regardless of the background, the age, and even the social status.
And more, Sophie, how old are you?
I am 11.
You're 11. Okay. So you're here with your brother, and I know you've been helping actually both with some of the leadership and mentoring, but also you've been kind of doing some of these, you believe in the whole, in what your brother's talking about.
Yes.
How does that make a difference for you as a young person in Winnipeg? Thinking about strength and boldness in your voice and what empowers you?
Really, what empowers me is, first things first, I started going to the gym with my brother. He encouraged me at 9 years old.
Okay.
And then and at first I hated going to the gym.
Right.
But
I'm your people. Okay. Yep.
And then he just told me that as long as you have that bad mentality and as long as you start hating the gym, you're never going to get far in life. And then that really just woke me up. It was very inspirational. So I decided that day that I was going to work hard.
Yeah.
I was going to be bold. I was going to be strong because of those words.
Does that help you, the mentality when you're doing the fitness, what you would apply to that? Does that help you in those life skills moving forward, do you think, as a young person?
Yes, because going to the gym really, being strong and bold and doing all of those things helped me a lot in life. Whenever I have to speak in public, whenever I have to speak on the radio, like right now, it really encourages me.
Yeah. I'm going to ask your brother this, but then I might actually come back and ask you the same question. I wonder what each of you think are some of the biggest challenges facing Black youth in Winnipeg right now.
We have done a lot of things in the education, with our education system, but I think we still need to, awareness, education, making sure people know the realities and some of the resources that they could have at their disposal. We don't have a program of this nature here in Winnipeg that connects fitness with leadership. Fitness is more something for people to feel good about themselves from a mental and physical standpoint. However, some of those skills, like we've talked about, can be connected to leadership and can empower people to feel better about themselves.
What are some of the realities, though? Even at the beginning, you said part of what led you to work on this was because you were that young person, and then you cited an experience. But there can be a variety of experiences. What are some of the realities that you feel that are just you see repeated and repeated that you want young Black people in particular to lean into and understand about and fight back against?
Trying to fit in is one of it. Discrimination, racism is part of our everyday life. It's almost like a second skin that we have to wear every morning. So I want people to understand, especially my community, that they have to be proud of who they are and that they bring something valuable to the table.
Well said. And I wonder what you think, Emma or Sophie, or what are the biggest challenges facing young people like yourself, do you think, in Winnipeg?
To be honest, I've really the biggest challenge is people not believing in me, thinking that I'm not capable of doing what I'm capable of. Maybe because of my skin color, because of my age, but a wise person said that greatness doesn't wait for your age. You could be 10, 11 and still be a leader. You can still be great.
You're doing that right now. Why are you in here? She could just be in here. I'm just kidding.
I can leave. No problem.
I'm teasing you, of course. It's just she's really inspiring,
Absolutely.
obviously. Yeah, you're really inspiring. Yeah. So the camp's already a week in. What are some of the conversations that you're already having with youth?
What does it mean to be a leader?
Mm-hmm.
Leadership, the definition in the dictionary doesn't necessarily encompass what a leader should be, because there's not one way of being a leader. So trying to adapt leadership skills to people's personalities and characters, and showing them that there's not one way of doing things.
Well, I know they're going to hear from a whole bunch of leaders coming up, because there's Omar Seguera, the health minister, Robert Loisel, Aisha Khan from the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, all kinds of leaders that are going to be speaking to the young people. We are out of time. Thank you very much for being in with us this morning. Good luck with the rest of the journey with the camp. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here too.
Thank you.
That is with us in studio, Stanislas Bell, the creator of Camp SCB, as well as Amor Sophia Teki, his younger sister, talking about some of the connections between boldness and leadership. So in Winnipeg, this camp is ongoing. It is free, and right now it is happening. There are ages of 16, between 13 and 16 is the ages of the participants, 10 Francophone and 10 Anglophone participants, and it is all going on and being organized through Sweat Equity Fitness.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. It's news you can trust, delivered when you want and where you want on Canada's News app. Now with CBC Radio 1, local and live. Download the CBC News app for free.
I don't know what that means. Hit another promo. I don't know what you're correcting. You have to...
Whether you're hanging out or out on the move, stay in the know with CBC Listen. The cost of living with Paul Havershrud goes beyond facts and figures.
Real estate is the 800-pound gorilla of Canada's economy.
And What on Earth with Laura Lynch explores the climate change crisis, problems, and solutions.
What happened that made you start to think and see climate change differently?
The Cost of Living and What on Earth. Available now on CBC Listen.
6:25 is the time, and next on the show, let's talk about hurricanes. There's grave concerns after a slew of cuts to the agency that handles most of the U.S.'s country's climate and weather research and forecasting. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Agency and its National Weather Service scientists, emergency managers, and lawmakers right now are bracing for uncertainty in Florida, hit by two powerful storms just 2 weeks apart last year. So they are sounding the alarm about more proposed cuts to climate and storm research, and that could be implemented in 2026. And why are we talking about the U.S. hurricane season? Because it could impact Canada. The CBC's Katie Nicholson is here to walk through all of this. Good morning, Katie.
Good morning, Marcy.
So let's start with the cuts. What are we talking about here again?
It's hard to pin down exactly. NOAA won't confirm the numbers about the current vacancies, but the tally of jobs is in the hundreds, consistently reported at nearly 2,000. And so that includes research areas as well as the National Weather Service. And it isn't just jobs. The administration is also proposing axing NOAA's climate and weather research labs around the country, including ones around the Great Lakes, which Canada benefits from. Although there is pushback in Congress, especially after the Texas floods. And last week, the federal government okayed filling 450 positions at the National Weather Service, but that's just months after axing 500 positions there. And none of those positions will be filled by the time hurricane season really ramps up next month. And there is, from what we've been told, a lot of chaos and low morale and just so many vacancies at this critical research and forecasting organization.
Well, what specifically are the people who work in weather forecasting then saying about this?
Well, they're worried on a number of fronts. NOAA is a world leader in hurricane research and forecasting. Some of the former employees told us cuts have left staff spread thin. There's critical data collection that's being compromised, and that has a trickle-down effect. If there are staffing issues and data collection issues at NOAA, that can affect meteorologists outside of NOAA, broadcast meteorologists, for example, like John Morales, who's a veteran meteorologist at NBC in Miami. He explains.
Well, I'm very concerned about the Atlantic hurricane season. It's really a combustible mix to live in an era in which there is a higher chance that any tropical storm can become a Category 4 or 5 hurricane. And that's been, peer-reviewed science looked at all over the world. This is already happening. We're getting more of the stronger hurricanes happening. Well, that's one element. Now we're going to mix it with a degraded ability to study, monitor, forecast, and warn for these potentially incendiary, and I'm very concerned.
So Morales says that NOAA is so understaffed, weather balloons are not being released as frequently as normal, sometimes not at all. So there's gaps in the data there. And he's also worried about those hurricane hunter flights not being able to have as many missions as they normally do. Those are those planes that go right into the eye of a hurricane. He used the example last year as Hurricane Milton was intensifying into this Category 5 off the coast of Florida. He was getting information live on air from one of those flights about how rapidly it was intensifying and able to then use that to warn the public.
Well, what does this mean then for emergency managers?
Well, we were given a tour of the Emergency Operation Command Center Miami-Dade, this massive nerve center that kicks into gear in hurricanes. Just everybody you can imagine has a seat at the table. And Pete Gomez, who runs it, he said, they are joined at the hip there with NOAA, and the information that it delivers in a crisis is essentially crucial.
Well, if we're not getting timely, accurate information, then we can't make timely, accurate decisions. So it's important for us to get it as quickly as possible so we can get the message out to the public. One of the things that always worries us in the world of emergency management is people not evacuating. So we got to give them enough time, right, to be able to get on the road away from hazard, from the threat, so they can get to an area where it's going to be safe.
And Marcy, quickly, I talked to the mayor of Tampa, who said they're not really going to know the impact of the cuts until, unfortunately, they have a major storm, and they won't know what they're missing until they actually experience it, essentially. And she hopes they don't. But this is sort of the uncertainty they're living with. And then for Canada, Environment and Climate Change Canada shares an awful lot of information with NOAA and vice versa during hurricane season. We asked them if they have any concerns. What Environment and Climate Change Canada assured us is that they do have contingency plans and relationships with other national hydrometeorological organizations like the World Meteorological Organization. So there are contingencies in place, but Marcy, all of those organizations, they also rely on NOAA as well.
Katie, thank you very much for your report. Appreciate your time this morning.
You're welcome.
That is Katie Nicholson, senior reporter with CBC News. And our local news is next.
This is CBC News. At 6:30, we're at 17 degrees with partly cloudy skies over downtown Winnipeg. We do have a risk of a thunderstorm today. Good morning. I'm Matt Humphrey. Manitoba's premier says the province will at long last search for the remains of Tanya Neepanak. Neepanak was 31 years old when she went missing in 2011. Police believe she was killed and ended up in the Brady Road landfill on Winnipeg's south perimeter. Neepanak's aunt, Sue Caribou, has spent years pushing for the landfill to be searched more extensively.
I continue to advocate so she's not forgotten. She's still a landfill in a pile of trash where no human being should be left.
Premier Wab Canoe says the search is still in its planning stages. He says they'll begin by looking for the remains of Ashley Shingoose. She is one of 4 First Nations women who died at the hands of a Winnipeg serial killer in 2022. The leaders of a Northern First Nation are blaming a decision by Manitoba Hydro for keeping them out of their homes. Wildfires knocked out power in Puckatawagan 2 months ago. The community has requested substitute generators while infrastructure repair work finishes. Without power, Puckatawagan's evacuation order is expected to stay in place. Manitoba Hydro says instead it's focusing on restoring the electric grid. Peter Chura is with the corporation.
We need the logistics, we need the resources available to repair the damage and get the power restored. And we are confident that our efforts are best directed, that our resources are best directed toward moving the crews and material that we need into the community to fix the power properly than to move generators.
Puckatawagan leadership calls the decision unacceptable. The First Nation is under one of the longest running evacuation orders in our province. Shock and uncertainty. That's what canola farmers in Manitoba are feeling after China announced a nearly 76% tariff on canola that's set to go into effect today. The Canadian seed crop is mostly grown on the prairies. Warren Ellis is chair of the Manitoba Canola Growers Association, which has about 7,500 members. Yesterday, he was asked how members are reacting to the tariff news.
I think shock. I don't think they've had enough time to actually figure it out. They don't know what it means. I mean, I don't know what it means, quite frankly. We're only 2 days in, I think, and we've got a lot to figure out really, how serious is this? Will there be help coming?
Ellis says harvest is about to start, and not having their second largest customer on board will make it difficult to pay back the financing they've taken out to grow this year's crop. Premier Canoe is urging the federal government to provide immediate financial help. Advocates say survivors of intimate partner violence with traumatic brain injuries have nowhere to go for help after a Winnipeg pilot program ended earlier this summer. The program was run through the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority and the concussion program at the Pan Am Clinic. It served Manitoba and Nunavut residents, with most flying into Winnipeg from Northern First Nations and Inuit communities. Karen Mason is the co-founder and executive director of SOAR, a nonprofit supporting survivors of violence-caused brain injuries. She says the Winnipeg program was the only one of its kind in Canada.
This program that was centered out of Winnipeg and was serving survivors in Manitoba and in Nunavut, where the risk of violence is so high, it was unique in Canada. There was nothing like this that was directly providing medical care directed at survivors of intimate partner violence-caused brain injury. So it's an incredible blow that it has been shut down.
The Winnipeg Regional Health Authority says the pilot ended because its trial period was over and it had limited space and resources. The province says it's encouraging the health authority to find a new long-term space for the program. And finally, about 140 fur pelts have been stolen from Fort Gibraltar. Staff say the thief must have climbed over the fort gates and smashed the windows of the cabin holding the furs. Brianne Lavallee-Heckert is the head of Festival de Voyageurs. She says the stolen pelts were worth thousands of dollars and are up to 75% of their collection.
They're part of our repertoire and everything that we've got in Fort Gibraltar, and it's how kids learn about animals in the fur trade, and it's our school program where we have 10,000 kids who go to the fort every year, and it's just a real loss to our community to have these furs taken.
Hackert says there are markings on the pelts, including the letters FDV, the festival's logo, and the name of the animal written in French. The report has been filed with police, and you are asked to keep your eyes peeled if you see any such furs marked with those logos. And that's your CBC News from Winnipeg.
All right, thanks very much, Matt.
Back soon.
That is Matt Humphrey live in our news department. All right, it's 6:35 a.m. It is Thursday, and Abby's watching a lot, actually.
Yeah.
What's going on in the weather today?
I'll just say, there's going to be a lot of sweat. It's going to get really, really hot today. It's going to be warm and humid in the southern part of the province for sure. And the northern region already seeing the rain we've been looking for weeks now. At least the northern part of the province really enjoying some rain. And I just checked the health index is still like below 3 now, so it's pretty decent outside. We will just be facing the humidity now in a lot of regions. The central parts will still see more thunderstorms to come and showers, while the north will be staying cooler with we're seeing the rain there already. Winnipeg 17 degrees at this time, partly cloudy. Sunshine will be mixing with cloudy conditions through the afternoon. We do have a slim chance of showers late in the afternoon. Sometimes you may hear some rumbles here and there in some part of the city. Just mild winds we're seeing in the city this morning. Temperatures will get to 29. So with those mild conditions and the heat coming, it won't really cool anything off. The humidity is going to be around 37, so prepare for that. Similar conditions we're seeing in the Pembina Valley region, Morden, Winkler, Altoona, Morris, down to the U.S. border, hovering between 16 and 17 at this time. Expecting a mix of sun and clouds today. Also a chance of showers and possible thunderstorms in the forecast.
west. We'll see highs for that part of the province around 31, and the humidity is going to be close to 40 degrees. For the Westman region, Brandon is currently seeing 16 degrees at this time, and similar conditions we're seeing spreading all the way down to Minnesota this morning. We saw some showers and still more showers in the forecast with a risk of thunderstorms to come with that. The winds will shift from the southeast to the northwest later, and we'll see some gusty conditions in that part. Temperatures will get to 28. The humidity will be around 35 for that part of the province. Now we check out conditions in the Parkland region where we saw that storm watch earlier, which ended for Dauphin all the way down to Roblin. We are seeing temperatures around 16 at this time. Clear skies we have there. The showers earlier are tapered off, but you should still see more. Some severe conditions may come your way later. Temperatures will get to 25 degrees today. In Interlake region, Gimli and surrounding regions, we're seeing 17 also there. Partly cloudy at this time. We're expecting a mix of sun and clouds today, a slim chance of showers and a risk of thunderstorms in the forecast. Temperatures warming to 27. Now, tracking it into the north where we have the rain this morning. The power flim flon all the way down to Thompson, we are seeing rain in that part of the province. 15 degrees in the power flim flon. We should see the showers scattered on and off for the rest of the day with the winds shifting to the west. Highs would get to 19 degrees. For Thompson, 8 degrees at this time. Rain and mild winds. We should see 10 to 20 millimeters of rain that would continue today for the Thompson region. Temperatures get to 17. While in Churchill at this time, we're seeing 6 degrees, mostly cloudy conditions. Mild winds coming from the southeast, expecting a mix of sun and clouds, and temperatures will get to 10. Tonight, Churchill should be getting rain. Also, we're looking at 10 to 20 millimeters for Churchill this morning. So across board, it's more like warm, humid in the south. The central sees thunderstorm, and the north is going to get rain, and it's going to be cool up north. Winnipeg 16 at this time.
You are right about the cool up north. I was just checking the cold spot now, and it flipped. It's now Churchill is the cold spot, yeah. We've been kind of opposite for parts in the summer. Sometimes we've been the colder spot down south, but not this morning. All right, it's 21 minutes to 7 o'clock, and Sierra Sanders is here to talk a little bit about the commute.
Good morning. Not much to talk about the commute as of right now. It is quiet out there as people are waking up and getting their day started, just like us. Even though mine started a little earlier than this, but that's okay. Perks of working in the morning. So yeah, not seeing too much out there. Things are moving along smoothly out there. If that is not the case though, and things are backing up somewhere or something is slowing you down, I would love to know about it so I can let your fellow listeners know if they are out on their commute. Whether you were here in the city or out on the highways, walking, biking, driving, maybe you're scootering. I don't know. I'd love to know what you're seeing out there. You can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number is 204-788-3093.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You missed canoeing.
I did. If you're portaging, I'd love to know too.
There probably are people portaging.
You never
this
know.
morning. All right, now the question is, are there people flying? That's on everyone's mind. So let's get to that with our business news this morning. Chrisley Ramlakan joins us with our report. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Marcy.
So let's talk about Air Canada. They say they're going to start canceling flights today. This is ahead of the possible flight attendant strike lockout, starting Saturday is the date we're working with. So what do travelers need to know right now?
Well, the airline says about 130,000 customers a day could be affected if it doesn't reach a last-minute deal with the union. So Air Canada says customers whose flights are canceled will be notified via email and text and will be eligible for a full refund. The company says it will also try to rebook people on another carrier if there is availability and that's possible. And if you're booked to travel between tomorrow and Monday, you can change your flight for free to another date between August 21st and September 12th. And if you change your flight and there is not a strike, you can change it back to your original itinerary in the same cabin, of course, still subject to availability without a fee. But Air Canada says passengers will not be able to claim incidental expenses such as meals and hotels if they can't get to their destination on time. And that's because it says under Canada's air passenger protection regulations, labor disruptions are classified as situations outside of their control and therefore do not qualify for regulatory compensation. But some experts argue the preemptive cancellations are within the airline's control. They say passengers should be ready with receipts and points to make sure, they have their case in line if they want to complain to the airline. Of course, we also know that the backlog for complaints about airlines is very large. And you know what, though? Travelers may be in luck if they booked with a credit card that has travel insurance, as long as the ticket was booked before a potential labor disruption became apparent.
All right, and we actually have another interview this half hour on this, so I just want to let people know that before the top of the clock. We'll get into some more detail as well. To another story, though, in business news, when could we see another interest rate cut, do you think, from the Bank of Canada?
Well, newly released documents show some members of the Bank of Canada were wondering last month whether interest rates are already low enough to support the Canadian economy through U.S. tariffs. So the Bank of Canada released its summary of deliberations from the meetings leading up to its decision on July 30th to hold the policy rate steady at 2.75%. And the decision arrived just a couple of days before U.S. President Donald Trump increased base tariffs on Canada up to 35%, while maintaining that exemption for goods compliant with CUSMA. Now, despite the ongoing trade uncertainty, monetary policymakers noted there were some signs of economic resilience heading into that rate decision. And as I was saying, some members wondered if the Bank of Canada had already provided sufficient support to guide the economy through these tariffs. So the central bank cut its policy rate 7 times in a row from last June to March of this year. And the Bank of Canada will get a fresh look at inflation figures for July and August ahead of its September 17th interest rate decision, which I know a lot of people are watching, people with variable mortgages and lines of credit.
Mm-hmm. And finally, before we look at the numbers this morning, we could also see more electric vehicle chargers soon in the country.
Yeah, that's right. So the federal government has announced $25 million in funding for companies to build more than 850 EV chargers. Most of them will be in Quebec, though. And the money will also help companies finance natural gas-powered transport and recycling trucks to help companies lower emissions. So nearly 1/4 of Canada's total annual emissions comes from transportation, with a significant amount from medium to heavy-duty vehicles such as 18-wheelers. And so a report released last year suggests Canada continues to fall behind on meeting the need for EV charging stations. So it's estimated that Canada needed 52,000 chargers by this year, but the country only has about 36,000, and that's according to a database maintained by Natural Resources Canada.
So let's get to the markets this morning. What do we know about the numbers?
In Europe, stocks are higher. Germany is up. The UK is down. France is up. In Asia, markets are mixed. Right now, Japan, Shanghai, and Hong Kong are all down. Oil is up at 23 cents to 62.88 U.S. per barrel. Gold is down 60 cents to $3,354.50 U.S. per ounce. And the dollar is down 1/10 cent to 72.6 cents U.S.
All right, Crystal Lee Ramlakan, thank you.
Thanks, Marcy.
With business news, that is Crystal Lee. All right, I mentioned we have more coming up on the Air Canada story, and so we're going to actually look at the labor aspects of the story, and we're going to talk to Adam King, who's going to walk us through the issue that's dividing issues that are dividing the two sides. Adam is with the University of Manitoba, an assistant professor in labor studies program there, so that's coming up this half hour. 17 in Winnipeg, as Abby just mentioned, mostly cloudy and a chance of a thunderstorm. This afternoon, we could see a risk of a thunderstorm, chance of showers this morning. I will mention that lightning has now started since we were last talking here. So we've got thunderstorm with light rain showers in Portage. So not here, but in Portage La Prairie, that activity has started. So some places in the south are starting to see a bit of this. Well, we have a bit of music this morning that we're kind of calling our Thursday wake-up song. It comes from our pop duo, Crash Adams. That is childhood friends Raphael Massarelli and Vince Sasso, if you don't know Crash Adams. They've been making waves with their catchy hooks and their colorful suits and their feel-good energy, which is why we're calling this our Thursday wake-up song. This is New Heart on CBC.
Call the doctor, page the nurse, 'cause the pain is getting worse. All the sleepless nights, I'm tired of suffering like I've been. I tried medicine, I tried therapy, I tried somebody else for a couple weeks. Now I know why it's been so hard to breathe. Yeah, I need a new heart that doesn't know who you are, cause this one's broken in two, all because of what you did to me. Can't feel it beat. I need a new heart that doesn't know who you are, cause this one's black and it's blue and it's not over you, baby. Can't feel it beat. All the letdowns, all the stress burned a hole inside my chest. Now the days go by, it's just me and my regrets. Nothing's left. I tried medicine, I tried therapy, I tried somebody else for a couple weeks. Now I know why it's been so hard to breathe. Yeah, I need a new heart that doesn't know who you are, cause this one's broken in two, all because of what you did to me. Can't feel it beat. I need a new heart that doesn't know who you are, cause this one's black and it's blue and it's not over you, baby. Can't feel it beat. Can't feel it beat. I tried medicine, I tried therapy, I tried somebody else for a couple weeks. Now I know why it's been so hard to breathe. Yeah, I need a new heart that doesn't know who you are, cause this one's broken in two, all because of what you did to me. Can't feel it beat. I need a new heart that doesn't know who you are, cause this one's black and it's blue and it's not over you, baby. Can't feel it beat.
Crash Adams, right? Told you it's a good Thursday wake-up song. Not only that, they were Juno nominated for Breakthrough Group of the Year in 2024. So if you're thinking, oh, I remember that group. And they've been keeping momentum going with a string of upbeat singles. So that one from Crash Adams is called New Heart. It is right now 11 minutes to 7 o'clock. Thanks so much for joining us here on the show this morning. Great to have you along. Well, we're smiling because we enjoyed the music, but you might not be smiling around what is happening with the Air Canada dispute. So up next on the show, as I mentioned, we're going to dig more into the labor issues around this. Crystal Lee was just talking about what's happening with the actual travel plans. But before I get there, actually, I've missed something on the screen here. So we do, speaking of travel, have something to pass along to you this morning in Manitoba. Abinogi, Mackinac, and Waverley. Apparently there's a collision, just to update this and repeat it, a collision blocking the eastbound middle lane. So be careful if you're passing there, and do expect eastbound delays at Abinogi, Mackinac, and Waverley this morning. 788-3093, by the way, if you want to reach Sierra here and pass anything along, not just here in Winnipeg, but if you have an issue in Manitoba on the highways, we'd love to hear about it as well. And so now let's return to our story about the labor dispute. I'm just checking with our studio crew to make sure our guest is still there. Our guest is there. Great. They are joining us via Zoom this morning. And they are here to talk about the fact that more than 10,000 flight attendants are poised to be off the job. Air Canada flights are going to be suspended in the coming days because of this, if this all comes to fruition. For several months now, the two sides have been unable to find common ground on several issues. So our guest right now is Adam King. He's assistant professor in labor studies program at the University of Manitoba. And I see you've popped up there on Zoom. Hi, Adam.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. I'm better than a lot of worried travelers in this country, but why don't we talk about the issues here? So the two sides in negotiations since March, what are the major sticking points right now?
The major sticking points involve compensation. First, unpaid work. Flight attendants perform really a large amount of their job unpaid. So everything that has to do with pre-boarding, safety checks, deplaning, is all unpaid work. They're really only compensated when the plane is in the air. And this is an industry practice that's really quite outdated and that the union's been trying to address for several years. Second is just general compensation. Flight attendants' wages have really been eroded by inflation over the past 10 years, particularly through the pandemic. They were locked into a 10-year agreement, so this is the first chance they've had to negotiate wages in 10 years. And flight attendants are generally pretty low paid. A new flight attendant at Air Canada earns less than $2,000 a month pre-tax. And so the union is really trying to make up for past losses when it comes to compensation.
Have they made any progress in these months?
It seems like maybe some, but the parties are very far apart on those two issues in particular. Air Canada has made a wage proposal, which is somewhere around 17% over 4 years, which might sound like a lot in percentage terms, but in dollar terms is really not that much. And even still, it doesn't address the past wage losses because of inflation and this very extended contract that these flight attendants were in previous to this. And when it comes to the uncompensated work component, Air Canada has offered to start compensating some of that labor, but only at 50% of their wages, which the union, of course, is seeking full compensation for all hours worked.
That issue of the unpaid hours, it's not just like airlines that are dealing with this and flight attendants. How has it been addressed in other workplaces then?
Yeah, so this is a practice that's, common across the airline industry. As I said, it's a bit of a hangover, a bit anachronistic at this point. I think it's important to keep in mind too that this is a largely female-dominated workforce that's had to struggle for many, many years to have their work recognized as valuable and important and to be compensated fairly, and that plays into the issues here. When it comes to other issues in other industries and uncompensated work, generally we regulate this through employment standards in most provinces, right? There are rules around working time and when people must be compensated when they're on the job. So for example, if you're in a company vehicle and you're on your way to work, because you're in the company vehicle, you're supposed to be compensated. So we have rules that are pretty all-encompassing to regulate working time and pay. And what's going on here is that this industry essentially has an exemption or a carve-out that they're operating outside of those rules in the Canada Labour Code. And really what the union is seeking is an end to that. They're through bargaining, but also there's been legislation proposed federally to end this practice and to bring airlines, into agreement or into the standard practice of industries across the country.
So how is it possible that they have a carve out? Because somebody might hear there's federally regulated rules, as you said, and you just said they're operating outside of this. So how has that been able to continue to happen? Or is it actually a formal carve out, like that they've been exempt on paper?
Yeah, so across the country, employment standards legislation is often like Swiss cheese. There are many carve-outs for different industries because they've lobbied over time to have, particular exemptions from rules. This happens all the time. A new rule will be proposed around, notifying workers, for example, of shifts ahead of time or something, and then a particular industry will lobby the government and say, this is too onerous for us because of X, Y, and Z, and then they'll get an exemption. This happens frequently, and airlines is one of those cases where hours of work regulations, not all of them, but some of them don't apply to them because of past lobbying practices
Got
and just
it.
an exemption. Yeah.
So the feds didn't intervene with the recent issues around the pilots, the labor disputes around the pilots in Air Canada. So I understand it's expected that the federal government won't intervene here either, right?
Well, we'll have to wait and see. I think that remains an open question. The pilots last year, you're right, they were in a strike position. They got right up to the 11th hour and then secured a deal with a pretty significant wage increase. The difference there, though, is that we were facing an election. Election was imminent at that point, and the Conservatives had said that Poilievre said that he would not intervene in the dispute if he were prime minister, which really sort of outflanked the Liberals on the left. The Liberals had been very overzealous and quite heavy-handed with their use of back-to-work orders for the previous year and a half against rail workers, Canada Post, Teamsters, a number of unions, right? They had done this several times, and they essentially faced a situation where the Conservatives were applying pressure, and so they backed off and allowed things to proceed. Now, they're not facing an election now, so the question is, do they make the same political calculation, or do they feel that they have the room to again intervene in a way that I would say is very unhelpful for labor relations, but would prevent work disruption?
All questions we'll have to see the answers to in the coming days and hours. Thank you very much, Adam, for being with us this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's Adam King here in Winnipeg, assistant professor in the Labor Studies program over at the University of Manitoba. Now, we're looking at the labor aspect of this. As for travelers, in case you've missed some of the information, Air Canada has said customers whose flights are canceled will be notified by email and text and will be eligible for a full refund. But there are issues with rebooking, and also if you change your flight or when you make your changes, if it's before a labor action is confirmed, there's a lot of different details here that you should be up to date on. So that was on our business news this morning. In case you missed it, though, World Report will have more on this story and what you should know as a traveler coming up. So that's in 3 minutes from now. Right now, let's go to local news headlines. Matt Humphrey has joined us in studio again. Hi there.
Hi, good morning. A Chinese tariff on Canadian canola seed is set to come into effect today. It's a nearly 76% tariff. The investigation launched by China into anti-dumping of Canadian canola led to the tariff after a Canadian tariff on Chinese vehicles, electric vehicles. Prairie premiers, including Wab Kinew, and farmers have urged the federal government to speak constructively with China to resolve the issue and have asked Ottawa to come in with financial support for growers at this time. We'll hear more after World Report.
Thanks, Matt.
Back soon.
You know how we have the blinds down here because
Absolutely.
we're on YouTube and apparently it's pouring out there. We should pull the blinds.
Yeah, let's take a look,
There you go, right? Grab
We'll
some
do
shampoo,
it,
get outside. It could be your morning shower.
Beautiful.
Is
Absolutely beautiful.
that weird that we want to get off the radio and go shower in the rain, maybe?
No, I get it.
It is pouring, though. Look at that. If you're watching us on YouTube, speaking of which, you're going to see that.
Look at
so
that.
just moved in. It had been imported. Came here pretty quicker than we expected. So really dark out there in Winnipeg now this morning. This could continue for us through the day. It's going to be sticky. High 29, humidex 37. And right now it is 17 degrees with that rain. In the traffic situation, we do have Abinogi-Mackinac and Waverley collision blocking the eastbound middle lane. And if you want to update anything, 788-3093 is where you can do that. Let's get into the next hour of the show. Coming up after 7, Manitoba Hydro, as we've been hearing, is focused on restoring power grid in Pakatawagan. But that means the residents will be delayed from returning home. We're going to hear more about that. The chief saying it's unacceptable, so just to build on the news. Also in the next hour of the show, last week we learned that 2 veteran Winnipeg police officers were charged with numerous offenses, and Winnipeg Police Chief Gene Bowers vowed to regain the public's trust. But one sociology professor who researches criminal justice reform says that could be an uphill battle. We're going to have a conversation about why and also about what could be effective in rebuilding that trust here in our community. So stay tuned. Lots still ahead on Information Radio. You're on CBC. World Report's next.
On The Current.
I'm Rebecca Zandbergen. U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin are set to talk in Alaska tomorrow.
We're going to Russia. That's going to be a big deal. What happens, happens. I'll let you know what happens.
But will the meeting bring the end of the war any closer, especially with Ukraine's president not attending? That's coming up on The Current.
The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. New Brunswick's Minister of Natural Resources says today everything hinges on the weather. The fire burning near Miramichi is still growing, and Minister John Herron says it can only be stopped by rain.
The descriptor of it being beyond control, I think I've used those very words myself. It's a massive challenge for us. The best we can do at the moment is be able to steer the trajectory of that fire.
There is some relief in sight. Rain is forecast to start this morning and continue through the day. Herron says New Brunswick has requested 2 super scoopers and 60 more firefighters, but he understands there are many more fires burning across Canada that also need resources. On Vancouver Island, fire crews are working to protect the city of Port Alberni. The nearby Mount Underwood wildfire is roughly as large as the city of Victoria, and a drought on Vancouver Island is testing crews in new ways. My World Report co-host John Northcott is following the story for us. And John, why is the Mount Underwood fire proving so challenging for fire crews?
Marcia, officials are using the words unusual and aggressive to describe the fire on the outskirts of Port Alberni. The city, population 22,000, has residents of its southern neighborhoods under evacuation alert. The nearby First Nation also keeping a wary eye and issuing alerts about the fire that is being described as explosive. Winds have shifted, and in 24 hours it grew from 1,400 hectares to over 2,000. But for the 64 firefighting crews on the ground, the big challenge is the dry conditions prompted by a drought that started as far back as May. Here's Fire Information Officer Carly DeRosier.
It would take a significant amount of rain over a longer period to really penetrate the ground to extinguish the fire that is going to be burning deep in the ground, which is common when we see wildfires burning in areas that are impacted by drought.
So what about the rain? What is in the forecast?
Marcia, while there is rain in the forecast, officials point out previous outlooks are over predictions. In other words, overly optimistic when it came to the amount of rain. What they really need is what you might call a Goldilocks solution. Too little to help. Too much all at once, and the water quickly washes over and away from the dry, drought-packed terrain. What they really need is not only rain, but a steady, sustained rain that will penetrate the ground and really get at the fires still active underground.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, Marcia.
John Northcott with me in studio. The wildfire burning near the Bears Lake Industrial Park on the edge of Halifax is now being held. Halifax Mayor Andy Fillmore says it's possible to get it under control as long as the weather cooperates.
The conditions are variable. We had some help from some precipitation and humidity. We're all hoping for more rain. What we don't want is wind. So we're subject to a number of variables. But right now, those 50 plus provincial and Halifax City firefighters that have been out there have been doing a remarkable job.
Officials say this fire was caused by human activity. Anyone who violates Nova Scotia's fire ban faces a fine of $25,000. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is in London. He has wrapped up talks with the British Prime Minister at Downing Street. It is all happening hours ahead of that high-stakes summit in Alaska. U.S. President Donald Trump will meet with Russia's Vladimir Putin to push for a ceasefire in Ukraine. Crystal Gomansing has more.
Confident of a ceasefire? Will you back Ukraine fully, Prime Minister? No answer to reporters' questions and only a small smile from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as he embraced Keir Starmer. The two leaders paused briefly on the steps of 10 Downing Street for photos, a public show of support ahead of a critical meeting on Ukraine's future since Russia's full-scale invasion, one that Ukraine is not invited to.
I remain to be skeptical about the possible outcome of this summit.
Alexander Mereshko is a Ukrainian MP and chair of Ukraine's Foreign Affairs Committee.
Putin has not changed and has not abandoned his primary goal, his ultimate goal to subjugate and destroy Ukraine.
European allies held a virtual call with Zelensky and U.S. President Donald Trump Wednesday. They failed to secure an invite for Zelensky, but expressed confidence that Trump heard their message, that pressure must be applied to Russia in order to achieve lasting peace. Alex Younger was the head of MI6 between 2014 and 2020. His expertise is counterterrorism.
It is true that Donald Trump is the only person that can solve this, but I think he's massively overestimating the influence on Russia of the possibility of a bilateral reset with the US. Russia just doesn't trust the US, and Putin is playing him.
The US president has called Friday's meeting a listening exercise. The UK's prime minister has praised Trump for his work towards a chance at ending the war. Crystal Gomansing, CBC News, London.
The House of Commons and Canada's cybersecurity agency are investigating a data breach. CBC News obtained an internal email telling parliamentary staff a malicious actor gained access to a database, and it contained information used to manage computers and mobile devices, including employees' names, job titles, and office locations. The cyber attack happened on Friday. House of Commons staff are being warned info gathered in the breach could be used to target and impersonate parliamentarians. A violent case of misconduct by Ontario jail guards is leading to convicted criminals getting lenient sentences. In one case near Toronto today, a man who murdered his ex-girlfriend will learn when he may be eligible for parole. As Thomas Daigle reports, the killer was one of nearly 200 inmates caught up in an aggressive strip search.
People gravitated to her. She had a very kind soul.
Connie Vergione lost her 29-year-old daughter Vanessa at the hands of her ex-boyfriend. Already on probation in 2022 with a court order to stay away from Vanessa, he broke into her Brampton, Ontario home and killed her with a knife.
I am hoping the judge will not let him be eligible for parole prior to 20 years.
Linville Ritchie pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, meaning an automatic life sentence. But today the judge will decide how early he can apply for parole, potentially after only 10 years. All of it under consideration because Ritchie was strip-searched in jail and left in his boxers for 37 hours, his hands zip-tied.
They might be criminals, but they're human. We got to treat everyone with respect.
Premier Doug Ford is condemning the 2023 incident at Maplehurst Jail, an act of collective punishment by guards now under review by Ontario's Ombudsman Paul Dubé.
We've seen the conditions degrade in the correctional facilities.
Connie Vergione, though, has little sympathy.
They committed a crime. What do they expect?
One man has even filed a class action lawsuit saying inmates are owed $30 million in damages. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Toronto.
For 2 years, countries have been trying to draft a treaty to end plastic pollution. They're meeting for the 6th time now in Geneva, and negotiators are hoping it's the last time they will have to get together. But with less than 24 hours left in the talks, there are still some deep divisions. Jennifer Yoon has the details.
Here's a fact. Microplastics have been found all throughout the human body. Chances are you have some swimming in you right now.
It's been found in the blood, in the lungs, in the heart.
Scientists like Dr. Chris Carlston are only just starting to find out exactly what it's doing to our health.
I don't think there's any question that these are having effects on our body, immunologically, etc.
And there's more and more plastic all around us. We create over 400 million tons of new plastic every year, and that number is on track to triple in the coming decades.
We have promised the world that we will tackle the crisis of plastic pollution by...
Canada is among the countries that have gathered in Geneva. They're supposed to come up with a legally binding treaty that would end plastic pollution. Delegates have met half a dozen times over 3 years, but entering into their last day of talks, they're still deadlocked. Erin Silsby is part of the Canadian delegation.
While we have done much work, we have a long way to go.
About 100 countries want to put a cap on new plastic production, but others, the US and other oil and gas nations, oppose that. Most plastic is made from fossil fuels. They say the treaty should focus on recycling and cleanup. Talks are expected to wrap up today. All 175 countries gathered need to agree to the treaty. If they manage to get it done, it would be the first ever legally binding treaty on plastic pollution. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
And that is World Report. Most for our story at cbcnews.ca. Tourism has dropped in Las Vegas. It seems Sin City is missing Canadians, and casino CEOs are worried. More on that story on our main page. Click on Elvis. I'm Marcia Young.
It is pouring in Winnipeg, and it's wet over much of Manitoba this morning, kind of in pockets. We are all going to have an unstable day with the weather. Welcome to Thursday, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. We are live in downtown Winnipeg on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. This is CBC's Information Radio. Thanks for being with us on the morning show. So more on the weather system in a moment, and then we're going to talk about healthcare. Manitoba still ranks second last among the provinces for physicians per capita in Canada. We're going to meet a doctor who traveled to the Netherlands to study that country's healthcare system, where 94% of their population has a family doctor. How did they do that? If that is the only question we get answered in this interview, I'm satisfied. So we're going to talk about that and more coming up in just a moment. Also, this hour on Information Radio, coming up at about 10 to 8 this morning, we are going to hear more about what happened last week with the arrest of 2 veteran Winnipeg police officers. Now, you probably know the story I'm talking about. They were charged with numerous offenses. Winnipeg Police Chief Gene Bowers vowed to regain public trust. He was in an unusual moment, part of the press conference last week because of the seriousness of this, of course. But we're going to have a sociology professor on to talk to us about it because he researches criminal justice reform. And he says that regaining trust could be an uphill battle. And we'll hear why, and we'll hear what he says needs to be done to rebuild that. So that's all coming up this hour. Right now, though, let's get updates on other stories. And Matt Humphrey is in with headlines.
Good morning. At the top of the news, the province says it's planning to search the Brady Road landfill for Tanya Nepanak now, a missing Winnipeg woman who disappeared more than a decade ago. The premier says the search will follow the search for Ashley Shingoose, one of 4 women killed by a Winnipeg serial killer in 2022. The search for Nepanak, who went missing in 2011, is in the planning stage. And as you've been hearing, leadership at Puckatawagan First Nation says Manitoba Hydro is prolonging the evacuation of their community by not providing substitute generators. The power is being knocked out in the Northern First Nation as it deals with wildfires. Hydro says instead of providing generators, it'll focus on infrastructure repairs. Puckatawagan leadership says people could come home quicker if the generators were provided. Puck's evacuation order is now one of the longest in Manitoba we've seen this summer. We'll hear more at the bottom of the hour.
All right, thanks, Matt.
Back soon.
Well, I was joking about going outside, Abby, with shampoo and just letting the rain, give me a shower. But it's the real deal. It's coming down so hard right now.
It's the real deal. Now we have, do I call it the front row seat to the showers?
Yeah.
Now? Because more like my backdrop, the showers is now in the city. We've been tracking it from the Dauphin, the Brandon, and now it's in the city. And we're getting thunderstorms. Those cracks really come in here and there. Feels heavy outside. Wiper blades going. Winnipeg at 17 right now. Once this system tapers off, we should be seeing a mix of sun and clouds. And then this is still going to hang back. We're still going to see showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon. And similar conditions for most of the regions in the south. 16 degrees we're seeing right now. Up north, 6 in Churchill and 15 in the past. Still showers in that part of the province. That should taper off and more showers into Friday. Winnipeg right now, 17 and some thunderstorms outside, Mercy.
All right, me and Sierra right now are working on opening the blinds. There we go.
There you go.
Just because we want to watch this. There's something about a storm. Do you know what? I have family from Vancouver, and they get rain all the time, but they don't necessarily get the kind of prairie storm.
Yeah, the prairie stormy rain.
Yeah, so hearing that rumbling thunder this morning and the lightning, as long as you're somewhere where the wet won't ruin your morning, is actually quite nice.
I know. Just be safe out there.
Yeah, agreed.
Grab an umbrella.
Yeah, it's the kind of rain where wipers aren't keeping up, as Abby's been mentioning.
They're not keeping up. Nope.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into what Sierra is here for, which is the commute. Hi.
Yes, good morning. And to do with the rain, I got a call from Julie, and she mentioned that the underpass at Higgins in Maine is actually starting to get some water collection at the what's the word I'm looking for? Like the valley of the underpass, the underneath the underpass. Yep. So the water is starting to collect there due to this little downpour that we are having in the city. So if that underpass is on your commute, make sure you're going slow through that collection of water there. So that's the underpass at Higgins in Maine, starting to see some water collect under there due to this little downpour, prairie downpour that we are having this morning. As well, as we talked about before, still seeing a collision blocking the eastbound middle lane at Abinogi-Mi'kmaq and Waverly. Be careful if you are passing there and expect some eastbound delays, and go a little bit slower, especially if it's coming down hard in that area like it is here downtown. That's Abinogi-Mi'kmaq and Waverly. There's a collision blocking the eastbound middle lane. If you're seeing anything else out there or anything slowing you down, especially with this downpour out there, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. I'd love to let your fellow listeners know. You can give me a call at 204-788-3093.
Well, let's get into the healthcare story I mentioned 2 weeks ago. Results from a benchmark poll showed that Manitobans were most concerned with affordability and with healthcare. So that survey found that 70% of respondents cited wait times in emergency rooms as their most pressing concern. Meantime, on the primary care front, Manitoba only received 2 out of 150 family doctors they were promised by a recruitment firm 2 years ago. We reported on that at CBC yesterday. Last year, in addition, Manitoba saw a net increase of 133 physicians. That is the largest on record. But Doctors Manitoba says the province still ranks second last among physicians per capita in Canada, with 219 physicians per 100,000 residents being that number. Now, Dr. Nichelle Desolé is president of Doctors Manitoba. She spoke with CBC's Marjorie Dowhouse on Up to Speed yesterday. She says the province needs to use retention as a recruitment tool.
Canada, from coast to coast to coast, is short on doctors. So we have a high level of competition that we're up against. We need to make sure that we're staying competitive, because if we're recruiting physicians that are fresh out of school who don't necessarily have ties to a particular community, the world is their oyster. And if we're talking about recruitment from outside of Canada, we got to make sure that different jurisdictions, we're not being outcompeted by different jurisdictions.
Now, we're going to have a conversation next with another doctor who traveled to the Netherlands in February to understand how that country, a population of 18 million, managed to find, as I said at the top of the hour here, a doctor for 94% of their population. And could we do that here? Dr. Tara Kieran is a family doc and researcher for St. Michael's Hospital and the University of Toronto. She's the host of a podcast called Primary Focus. Good morning.
Good morning.
So how could we do that here? How did they make that happen?
So they actually have a family doctor, a primary care doctor for 99% of their population. So it's even more stunning. And, it's a lot of things that go behind that. But, one overarching piece is true that they actually do have more doctors per capita. So 1.6 times the number of doctors per population. But they've also figured out how their doctors can care for more patients using effective teams. And in particular, they have team members, nurses and practice assistants who support the doctor so that the doctor really can work at the top of their scope and look after the most complex patients. And also, actually, the other piece that's really important is that it's not just that people have a doctor, but the doctor's offices are designed to provide really timely care.
What do you mean by that? How are they designed differently to provide timely care? Yeah.
So interestingly, in the Netherlands, the doctors actually, the general practitioners, they call them, or GPs, they are the first line of contact for everything, including most things that are urgent or emergent, except for anything life-threatening. So if you have something life-threatening, you can call an ambulance, you go to the emerge. But actually, if you think you hurt your hip or broke your arm or you're having really bad stomach pain, sometimes in Canada we would go to the emerge for that, even if you have a family doctor, because some people might not be able to get in there to their family doctor or think their family doctor can't manage it. But actually there you have to see the family doctor first before you can go to the emergency department. So the family doctor would refer you to the emergency department. So they've really designed their office to be able to take timely calls from patients. And the secret sauce, I think, is an individual they've trained called a practice assistant, which is kind of a cross between a medical receptionist and a nurse. And this person has been trained particularly on primary care triage algorithms. So, they know what to do when someone calls in with a fever or abdominal pain or all sorts of other things. And is it something that, can just be managed on the phone, or is it something that actually needs the doctor's attention today, or can it wait till next week? So they really help to support the patients at the time that they need it and navigate them through to the place where it's where they need to be seen, whether that's in person in the clinic, just managing over the phone, or actually the doctor doing a home visit, which is another cool feature of their system.
So what's interesting is you said a couple of things that if I were to interview the health minister or any politician, they would say, well, we're doing that here, team-based models, and we're trying to get people out of ERs, and they would cite in Manitoba urgent care centers and different models to try to get people in different places and out of ER, which all those things are happening. So what makes it more effective? Like, what's the difference between a team model that you saw there versus here? You mentioned some new positions, or do you think it's the geography or is it the cultural understanding of how their system works by the people?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I think you've actually, hit on a lot of important points at one time. So I would say, yes, there are a lot of good things happening in Canada now. People have recognized, governments have recognized, the government of Manitoba has recognized the importance of primary care and opened up things like urgent care centers and trying to expand teams. But I would say, at this point, it's the minority of patients that are actually with a family doctor who's working in a team. So we haven't actually scaled this up to be standard across our country. So that's a really big difference. In the Netherlands, what I just described in terms of the practice setup is a standard way of practicing and operating in every practice. I do think that the after-hour centers are a wonderful thing. Really interesting, in the Netherlands, they also have general practitioners working together in after-hour centers that are collective and serve a region, which I think is probably quite similar to what is being set up in Winnipeg. So everything in the right direction, but it's just scaled up to cover the entire country. And I think another piece, though, is yes, the teams have to be set up in a way that are most effective. And I think there they have really focused on trying to ensure that the teams are supporting doctors to see as many patients as possible and ensuring timely care. And, I work in a team model myself in Ontario, and I love it. It's a wonderful place to work. And I think, though, that there are more things that we can do in a team to actually expand our capacity to see more people. The way teams have often been set up is to provide more care to the same people versus provide more people with care, if that makes sense.
What did you learn about, I want to look at just another aspect of things. What did you learn about home care while you were there?
Oh, no, I think
I've still got you here, so I'm not sure if you can hear me. Are we having a Zoom problem, perhaps?
Okay, I just heard you again.
Okay,
Yeah.
super. That's great. I'm glad you're still with us. I just wanted to switch gears for a moment and ask about another aspect of the healthcare system. What did you learn about home care while you were there?
So one of the things that's wonderful in the Netherlands is that they actually do home visiting. So, if every doctor, I should say, between 1 to 2 p.m. in their clinic, so about an hour a day in their clinic, except for they keep one doctor who's working in the clinic, but everyone else has 1 hour blocked off to do home visiting. Part of this is geography, as you mentioned, because patients are supposed to live within 15-minute driving distance of their doctor. So it's part of the tradition of general practice to do visiting in the home and actually support patients, for example, with end-of-life care. What I love too is when they have their urgent care centers, their after-hours centers, they had a doctor who was supporting practice assistants with, people calling in on the phone, and they were trying to ensure people were getting the right care they needed. Another doctor seeing patients in person in the clinic, but another doctor who would actually go out and visit people in their home if needed. There was actually a professional car and driver that would take them there, which is amazing.
How would that change things here in Canada? Like this is a hard question because, but I wonder whether or not that's something you as a doctor would say, yes, like let's do that right now. That would be amazing.
I think it would, be so amazing for patients. We know, I'm sure elderly people who have a lot of medical conditions or other conditions, and they can't leave the home and really easily. And let's say something happens to them. They need to get care, and so then maybe they'll call the ambulance and they'll get taken on a stretcher and taken to the emerge, and they'll sit there waiting to be assessed and being assessed and have all the things done, and that might take several hours, and maybe they're lying on the stretcher that time, and maybe they even develop a bed sore. So it's really not a very humane way for us to be able to provide services to some of our most vulnerable patients. And, I think this is an incredibly patient-centered way. If you are able to, as a GP, go to a patient's home. I think what we have to do, though, is restructure our system so, that the regional after-hour center is actually really covering a region that you can access with the car and driver. And they're actually, the doctors are running the after-hour centers, and they came up with this thing that they have a car and driver, and they've got a laptop that they bring with them, and so the doctor doesn't have to actually do the driving, and the doctor can look at the notes in the car while they're being driven, and then when they come back, they can write up their notes again, and they've got someone there with them. They're not doing the home visit alone. So it's a really wonderful way in which they are delivering service both during the day and after hours. And I think there's elements that we can bring to Canada. Of course, geography is a challenge, but actually a lot of what they do is virtual care too, in a way where, timely calls that actually help to support them. It's virtual care integrated with in-person care, integrated with your actual records, which is different than often how virtual care is delivered in Canada these days.
Lots to learn here. Lots to learn here. Thank you very much for starting the conversation and telling us at least about part of what you learned on your trip. Appreciate having you with us.
Thank you. And if your listeners are interested, they can go to our podcast because I do a real deep dive in there and take them with us, primary focus.
Appreciate it. Dr. Tara Kieran, who's a family doctor and researcher at the St. Michael's Hospital at the University of Toronto. As mentioned, she's also the host of the Primary Focus podcast. It is 7:26 now. You got to move along to morning sports, and that means that Paul McGowan is joining us now. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
So I got to start with the Bombers. It doesn't look like football weather this morning, pouring rain out there right now, but hopefully it'll clear out. We're at home tonight and hosting Ottawa. We got to win, man.
Yeah, they're trying to tilt things back in the right direction, and there is still time to get things right. Winnipeg does still sit in the final playoff spot in the West, and a win tonight keeps them just a game back of Calgary. Also worth taking into account, of course, that last year's team struggled in the first half, a 2-6 start before going on to win the West. That recent history not lost on running back Brady Oliveira.
Obviously last year, but we faced a lot of adversity last year, and I think it's a good reminder of it's a very long season in the CFL. You know, there's lots of positive attitude and energy in that locker room right now. And there's one point last season when we were 2-6, right? We really turned that thing around. So it's not time to press the panic button. There's still a lot of season to play and a lot of football to play. So we're excited for more opportunities.
Brady Oliveira there talking to TSN. Now, to get back in the win column, Winnipeg has to shut down Ottawa quarterback Drew Brown, who threw for 5 touchdown passes last week, although he did do that against the league worst by a mile defense of the Toronto Argonauts. Bombers and Red Blacks get going at 7:30.
Let's get to tennis because for the second straight tournament, a Canadian is in the quarterfinals.
And Felix Auger-Aliassime has been making it look easy in Cincinnati. He gets past Benjamin Bonzi of France yesterday in straight sets. But like Victoria Mboko last week, Auger-Aliassime now draws the top seed in the tournament in Jannik Sinner, who is also, of course, world number 1, which for anyone else might be daunting. But Felix is 2-0 lifetime against Jannik Sinner, an advantage Sinner was asked about ahead of today's quarterfinal.
He has huge potential, especially when he's serving well. This is one surface what suits him very well. It's going to be very difficult, but in the same time, I'm looking forward for this match. You know, I like these challenges. Hopefully I can raise the level. Hopefully I can do it because, you know, that's if I want to play even with him, I have to raise my levels. But yeah, he's a very tough opponent.
A 2 p.m. start for that match, and Felix is the lone Canadian left in singles action, but Gabby Dabrowski and partner Aaron Routliffe are alive in doubles action. They are also through to the quarterfinal, and that match gets going in just about 90 minutes.
Well, let's end with soccer. One of Europe's top leagues is set to play a game in the States.
And that is Spain's La Liga that has planned a game for Barcelona and Villarreal in Miami. Now, this happens all the time in pro sports. The NHL plays games in Europe. The NFL plays games in London and Mexico. This plan, though, for a La Liga game in Miami has been getting a lot of pushback. Real Madrid, for example, which, you know, not even playing in this game, says that games on U.S. soil will affect the, quote, integrity of the competition. Fans don't love the decision either. This is Ronan Evian of Football Supporters Europe.
We're also at a time when we should all be thinking about limiting our impact on the environment. And now we hear the president of Villarreal announcing that all of their season ticket holders will be offered a free trip to the US. That's 20,000 people that are due to cross the Atlantic for a football game. In the current environmental landscape at a time when Europe is going through one of the worst heat waves in history, this is completely unacceptable.
So climate concerns, competitive concerns, and Real Madrid has actually asked FIFA and UEFA not to authorize this game. We will see what happens. The game is tentatively scheduled for December 20th.
All right. Thanks a lot, Paul.
Thanks, Marcy.
That's Paul McGowan in with Morning Sports. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You're on CBC with our team here at Information Radio, your morning show, and it is raining. It has let up just a little bit in downtown Winnipeg, but it's still wipers on and really dark out there. We'll get a full look at the forecast for the rest of the day. It's 17 degrees right now, but we'll get that full look after your CBC Winnipeg news.
This is CBC News. At 7:30, we're at 17 degrees with a thunderstorm in downtown Winnipeg. Things are expected to clear up shortly. Good morning, I'm Matt Humphrey. The family of Tanya Nepanak is hoping their long wait will soon be over. Nepanak went missing in 2011. Winnipeg police believe she was killed and ended up in the Brady Road landfill on the south perimeter. They spent 3 days looking for her in 2012. But now, Premier Wab Kinew says the province will conduct a more thorough search of the landfill. Nepanak's aunt, Sue Caribou, has spent years pushing for that.
I just hope they keep the promises and don't give up and really bring her home this time.
Kinew says the search is still in its planning stages. He says they'll begin by looking for the remains of Ashley Shingoose. She is one of 4 First Nations women killed by a Winnipeg serial killer in 2022. A remote northern First Nation says Manitoba Hydro isn't doing enough to help their evacuees return home. Wildfires knocked down power in the northern community of Puckatawagan more than 2 months ago. The First Nation asked Hydro to install generators in hopes of lifting its evacuation order. But the Crown Corporation says it's restoring power by focusing on repairs instead. Kelly Linklater is Puckatawagan's deputy chief.
They're not looking at the best interest of the community, the children, of course, the school. The kids are going to be going back to school soon, and what's the plan?
Hydro says it understands the strain the community is under, but they are confident resources are best put toward restoring power instead of relying on generators. A Chinese tariff on Canadian canola seed is set to come into effect today, with China slapping nearly a 76% tariff. It's hitting canola producers across Western Canada, including here in Manitoba. The Canadian seed crop is mostly grown on the prairies. Warren Ellis is a canola farmer and chair of the Manitoba Canola Growers Association. He says these tariffs come at a critical time as they gear up for harvest.
What that means is that the maximum amount of money has been spent already by farmers to grow the crop. And on Tuesday morning, we lost our second largest customer. And all the loans that we take out, all the cash flow that we use to finance growing the crop, now paying that back is in jeopardy.
Alice is urging governments to help canola farmers navigate this period of uncertainty. The Premier says the federal government should help farmers by using the $100 million in revenue it has collected from China on electric vehicle tariffs. A Winnipeg-based pilot program offering medical support to survivors of intimate partner violence with traumatic brain injuries ended earlier this summer. It served survivors from across Manitoba and Nunavut, with most flying into Winnipeg from Northern First Nations and Inuit communities. Advocates say it was the only program of its kind in Canada. Delma McLeod was a psychiatric nurse with the pilot program. She saw her last clients on June 10th.
We were at least a point where they could come and get the physical therapy and my therapy. And it was working really well. And now it's gone. And I had to sit in front of these women and tell them, we can't see you anymore.
The Winnipeg Regional Health Authority says the pilot ended because its trial period was over and it had limited space and resources. The province says it's encouraging the health authority to find a new long-term space for the program. Winnipeg police say a 31-year-old has been charged with nearly 24 offenses, mostly related to thefts and robberies at retailers, hardware, and convenience stores. Police say the man threatened a worker with a knife during a robbery at a station on King Edward Street. Ushman Singh works at that gas station. He says it was his co-worker who was threatened.
It's scary for us, but if you arrested that guy, that's helpful for us.
In some cases, police say the suspect hit more than one location in the same day, including a hardware store on Empress, a convenience store on Keewatin, and a retailer on Portage, all on July 3rd. And finally, as you've been hearing, travelers can expect some Air Canada flights to be canceled today as the airline braces for a work stoppage this weekend. The union representing nearly 10,000 flight attendants is poised to strike Saturday. The airline says it also plans to lock out workers around the same time, and so would begin canceling flights today. If a last-minute deal on a new collective agreement with the union doesn't happen, a full grounding could. Customers whose flights are canceled will be eligible for a full refund, we're told. And that's your CBC News from Winnipeg.
All right, thanks a lot, Matt.
Back soon.
We're going to have more on that, by the way, what people are feeling, actually, and thinking about the potential for having to, do all these cancellations and have problems with their flights. And that's coming up straight ahead on the show, actually, this morning. First, though, we have to dip into what's going on in the weather. And it is a dip in because it's wet out there, Abby.
This is a dip in storms. It's rainy across the province from the north all the way down south. I am tracking rain this morning. We're looking at this rain really hitting Winnipeg at some point. I'm already tracking it around the Stony Mountain area at this point. You should be getting some storms in that area also. Winnipeg now, 17 degrees, some thunderstorms really rolling in the city. Once this tapers off, we should see a mix of sun and clouds and more showers late this afternoon. Possibly some thunderstorms will also come with that. Temperatures warming up to 29. Similar conditions we're seeing in the Pembina Valley region, more than Winkler to the Morris, all the way down to the U.S. border. We're also seeing rain going towards that part of the province this morning. We'll see temperatures also get close to around 31 degrees today. In the Westman region, Brandon all the way down to the Minnedosa end, you saw the rain earlier. Now you're under mostly cloudy conditions at 16 degrees. We're expecting a mix of sun and clouds there today. More showers still coming your way once the wind direction changes. You see temperatures get to 28. Over in the Parkland region, Dauphin, Russell, Roblin, 16 degrees. It's clear at this point. We saw some showers there, but the showers on this end of the province as we speak. Temperatures will get to 25 today. The humidity is going to feel like 30 degrees for folks in that region. And in the Interlake region, Gimli sitting at 17 at this time and partly cloudy. We're looking at a mix of sun and clouds with showers and a risk of thunderstorms also in the forecast for that part of the province. High 27 degrees. The humidity is going to be around 35 degrees. Then in the northern part of the province, the powerful influence still seeing that rain that started earlier this morning. Temperatures around 15 degrees, warming up to only 18 degrees today. And we'll see a cool evening there. For Thompson and surrounding area, looking at Nelson House, all the regions around, we're seeing light rain also there, 8 degrees. The showers will continue for most of the day. With the winds coming from the southeast, highs will be around 17. And then Churchill, 6 degrees at this point, mostly cloudy. We'll see a mix of sun and clouds there, turning to cloudy as you get to the noon period. And then Churchill will get rain. So there's rain in forecast for Churchill also. Across board, it's going to be more like a humid and rainy day. And, Marcy, while the news was on, Sierra went outside to track the traffic.
Ooh, okay.
And she also tracked this.
Oh, close your eyes. I think she taped the rain.
There.
Oh, it's such a good sound, right?
The crash.
Okay, reload that. I want to hear it again.
You want to hear it again?
Close your eyes. Yeah, let's turn it up. This is like cozy in times. It's been cracking in downtown Winnipeg. You don't look that soaked, Sierra, for having been out there and capturing the sound.
It was basically using my long arm to try and extend the microphone as far as I could without it getting too wet. Yeah. So I actually just got that right outside at one of our side doors here at CBC, just sticking my mic out and got some good sound. It was crashing out there for a little bit. Seems to have, I would say, tapered off, but it doesn't really look like it.
Well, it's let up a little bit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not gone for sure, and there are a lot of soaked people out the window.
Yes.
We got the blinds up here, so we're just watching people biking to work, and by the time they get there, they're going to want to change their clothes.
They're going to be a little soaked.
Okay, speaking of biking, or if you're driving anywhere, what do we know about the commute?
Yeah, we're seeing a couple of things pop up. So one thing to note, Corden and Pembina, the lights are out, so you want to make sure you're treating that as an always stop and expect delays in all directions. That's kind of the confusion corner area there where Corden and Pembina meet. We're seeing lights out there, so you can expect delays there. Make sure you're treating that as an always stop and be patient with your fellow commuters because everyone needs to get to their places they need to go. As well, I got a call from Richard, westbound Notre Dame, just before McPhillips. There's a stalled car in the median lane, so you want to make sure you are passing correctly there. So that's a westbound Notre Dame just before McPhillips. There's a stalled car in the median lane. And then as well, there's a hydro outage at Main near Redwood. So lights are at several intersections are without power. It might be due to the storm here as we're seeing, but a hydro outage at Main near Redwood. So lights are out at several intersections there. So if you were in that area, you can expect to see a couple of intersections where you're seeing some lights out there. And make sure you're treating that as an always stop and going slow through there. And then as well, we're still seeing that collision at Abinogi-Mi'kmaq in Waverly, and that's blocking the eastbound middle lane. So be careful if you're passing through there. repairs and expect eastbound delays. So that's Abinogi, Mikina, and Waverly in the eastbound middle lane. There is a collision. I don't know how it's looking now, but I do remember getting a call from Julie about the underpass at Higgins in Maine, starting to collect some water under there. Don't know what it's looking like now, but if you have an update, if you're in that area, I'd love to know what that underpass is looking like. And if you are going through that underpass, just be aware there might be a little more water collection under there. Lots of things. But if there's anything else that I should know about, or you have any updates on the situations that I just talked about, I would love to know so I can tell your fellow listeners and commuters about what's going on out there. The number to call is 204-788-3093.
All right, Sarah, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, next on the show, we heard Matt in the news talking about what's going on with Air Canada. Matt actually yesterday was at the airport locally. So Air Canada flight attendants, of course, as you know, could be on strike as early as Saturday. Some flights are slated to be canceled today, so we're awaiting even more information. But Matt was at James A. Richardson International Airport in Winnipeg to talk to travelers. And the first person he spoke with was Debbie Iwanchuk from Oakbank, who was headed to Scotland.
We talked to our insurance company and they say it should be okay if Air Canada will take care of us, and that Air Canada says they will take care of us if that happens. So that helps.
You trust them?
I'd like to. But yeah, I'm all for this, them getting what they want. We talked to our insurance company and they say it should be okay if Air Canada will take care of us, and that Air Canada says they will take care of us if that happens. So that helps.
You trust them?
I'd like to. But yeah, I'm all for this, them getting what they want.
It makes it a little more challenging.
Upgraded wages and benefits.
Work, and there's a lot of us that travel every day.
It's been a while.
And you're taking the Air Canada flight today.
I'm a project coordinator.
Do you have a return flight booked? What the possible work stoppage?
I hope WestJet puts on a few more flights. So we'll
what the possible work stoppage?
I hope back on the 25th. So back on the 25th. So we'll see what happens. They work hard and stuff. They work hard.
So what went through your mind when you read this
I don't know
news?
what the alternative is. There's only, it's going to be work impacting for sure. Absolutely.
So what went through your mind when you read this news?
It's going to be work impacting for sure. Absolutely. To have, I don't know what the alternative is. There's not many flights into Newfoundland.
But you support the
there's
flight
a lot of workers that work away. 100%. So it's going to be a challenge for sure.
But you support the flight attendants.
Absolutely, 100%. Life in risk just because they're not deserve fair wages. They work hard. They put their life in risk just because they're not behind the scene. They deal with a lot during a I fly quite often, and they deal with a lot during a flight.
I just think it's a nonsensical.
I live in the States, but I have a place here, and I travel back and forth all the time.
I think it's tough in
Winnipeg.
Winnipeg. I just think it's strike.
I mean, I think it's tough in Winnipeg, right? Because you don't have all the options that a Toronto does or Vancouver does or even Calgary does for that matter, or Montreal now. And so when one airline or one union in one airline puts you under the gun, you're really squeezed. And it really hurts markets like this. And by the way, you got a fabulous airport. I love it.
So what went on a personal level?
Yeah.
What happened in your brain when you read this? Like, what did you think for your future plans
right?
and stuff?
You're scrambling. We don't use a travel agent, right? We my guys and our team, we book our own travel, right? So instead of being able to go boom, boom, boom and book travel, now you got to book one trip and then maybe book a backup trip and another backup trip. And if some of these trips require you to pay now, wait till the time comes when you got to get your money back.
Is it fair to say that you don't necessarily support the strike action?
I don't support it. I absolutely don't. I'm not saying that the flight attendants don't have a case to make. I'm not that familiar with their pay package. I don't know what the last contract looked at. I was very aware, I don't know why, but very aware what the pilots went through last year. I think it was last year, right? That the pilots, Air Canada pilots, went on strike or threatened to strike, and then they got a pretty sweet deal, it seemed to me. I think it was a 3 or a 5 year deal out of it. So that seems fine. I don't know what the elements are in the flight attendant's grievance. I don't pretend to be an expert in that, but I think what's interesting is the flight attendants, who represent a smaller population, I guess, of the total, I think, Air Canada workforce, are able to hold the company hostage, as well as the travelers. And what the company's doing to take advantage of that is playing the unions off of each other.
The airport here in Winnipeg, in conversation with CBC's Matt Humphrey, who was there yesterday. He spoke with Debbie Iwanchuk, Paula Drover, and Ross Dyke at the Winnipeg airport. If you want to weigh in on what you're thinking around this, or if you want to share your story about how it's potentially going to impact you, today is the day. A lot of travelers are going to be leaning into what is going to be said by Air Canada, and also about what happens when they start to get texts and emails and information if flights are going to be canceled or changed. You can weigh into our listener line anytime on anything. It's 788-3205.
It's an honor to have you at the White House.
The stories that matter.
The opportunity is in the partnership.
As they happen.
There are some places that are never for sale.
And what they mean to you.
But never say never. Never say never.
For news you can trust, stay with CBC News.
7:45 a.m. is the time in a dark and rainy and stormy Thursday morning here in Winnipeg. It is mostly cloudy, 17 degrees with the rain continuing to fall, and it's going to be sticky today, high 29 with humidex 37. Although because the rain came earlier than anticipated, maybe it'll crack that for us and feel a little more seasonal and a little more tolerable. But it should be sticky around Manitoba. In Brandon right now, cloudy, 16. Thompson with light rain and 9 degrees is what we have. Well, let's return to a story that we first started reporting on late last week. We learned that Constable Elston Bostock, a veteran Winnipeg police officer, was charged with numerous criminal offenses, including trafficking illegal drugs, obstruction of justice, and committing indignity to human remains after distributing an intimate photo of a dead woman. He did not act alone. Another officer, Constable Vernon Stratinsky, a 15-year member of the force, was also charged with several offenses, including breach of trust and breaking and entering to commit extortion. Now, all of these offenses are believed to have taken place between January 2016 and November 2024, so over an 8-year period. Late last week, Winnipeg Police Chief Gene Bowers outlined some actions the police will be taking to ensure, he says, more accountability. He says he's asked the province to establish a code of conduct for officers and change the legislation to require the publication of disciplinary actions against officers who commit misconduct.
Yesterday, I sent a letter to the Justice Minister, Matt Weed, asking that the new Police Services Act establish a uniform code of conduct for all police officers in Manitoba, and to have a requirement to publish disciplinary actions taken with respect to police misconduct. Trust must be earned. We can't ask for trust. We have to earn it through our actions.
Chief Bowers' recommendations are just the tip of the iceberg, according to my next guest. Timothy Bryan is an assistant professor in the Department of Sociology at the University of Toronto. He researches the policing of hate crime and criminal justice reform, and he believes that police shouldn't just change their conduct, but their culture altogether. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So after hearing the chief's call about, recommending the police services, the recommendations to amend the Police Services Act, I'm wondering why you think Chief Bowers' recommendations, why you don't think, rather, Chief Bowers' recommendations are sufficient.
Right. You know what? In fact, when I heard the chief's recommendations, I found them actually quite peculiar. That, the establishment of a code of conduct or changes to legislation to publicize disciplinary action were the kinds of outcomes coming out of this particular case. Because this particular case is not an example of code of conduct violations. This case is an example of officers engaged in criminal behavior while on the job, crimes that shouldn't require a code of conduct in order for officers not to engage in crimes while they're on the job. So there's something about the fact that, the suggestion that if there was a kind of code of conduct, that this behavior perhaps wouldn't have happened, but this behavior shouldn't be happening at all. Officers should not be committing crimes while on the job. And that is what is sort of the baseline, I think, here, is that this behavior shouldn't be happening at all. And the fact that it has been happening, at least for almost a decade, it seems, suggests that there are bigger issues internal to the organization that the organization really needs to tackle.
We understand the police chief is planning a more detailed discussion with the Justice Minister, so we heard some of the recommendations that were at the press conference last week. But what else might you suggest is discussed or recommended, or is the point here that it shouldn't be the police that are really involved in the oversight of what's happening here?
Right. I think there are a lot of layers there where the police are involved in, institutional transformation when they are the institution that has struggled at least for 8 years or so to tackle these kinds of issues. So it is peculiar that there is this kind of level of trust in the police to change their their ways or to make improvements when the police themselves have demonstrated an inability to do that. And so I think what we have to tackle fundamentally is the kind of culture that pervades policing. This is not just an issue of an individual police officer engaged in individual forms of misconduct or committing crimes. It's also a culture that allows for officers to commit crimes for 8 years before having it come to light. A culture that is quite top down, a culture that is quite insular, and a culture that, unfortunately, loyalty at times allows for these kinds of behaviors to go unreported.
I'm going to dig into that with you, that culture piece, in a moment. I just want to say allegedly commit crimes because these we're talking about the going back 8 years to 2016. Of course, the charges date back to 2016. They've not been proven in a court of law. I do wonder, though, where you look at cases where charges have been proven and it's sort of gone unreported for all of these years. I mean, in the end, it was members of the service were part of, we don't have a ton of detail, but we know members of the police service did come forward and bring some of this to light. So this is going to speak to culture, right? Like what it takes to come forward, I suppose. But I wonder, how does it happen? That something would go under the radar, so to speak, for so long, that kind of activity in a service.
Right. And I think these are really great questions because policing is a kind of peculiar organization. On the one hand, and I think that the peculiarities contribute to the outcomes that we're seeing. On the one hand, you have an organization that is quite, as I was saying, top down, that is quite organized around loyalty, around deference to authority, around obeying orders, and above all, having the back of your fellow officers, right? And so in a culture like that, coupled with a lack of transparency, visibility from the outside looking in, it creates a kind of atmosphere where individuals with their high levels of discretion can engage in behaviors that are not consistent with the policies or the expectations of the organizations. And perhaps because of this loyalty piece, other officers are willing to also either go along or at least say nothing when these kinds of behaviors happen. So on the one side, you have that. And on the other side, what you have is within that same structure, a kind of disincentive to report because reporting is often seen as disloyal behavior that compromises your relationships with your colleagues. Because if you are going to report on one officer, it might be the case that you will report on me next, for example, right? And so when you have a culture where there isn't a lot of visibility and there are disincentives for coming forward, it creates a kind of environment where behaviors that shouldn't happen can happen for a prolonged period of time.
I want to interject here. What do you mean by disincentives for coming forward? How does that come out culturally, or what might be the thinking there by an officer who's hesitant to come forward, for example?
Right, because officers, also want to manage their own careers. They may want to progress. They may want to have promotions. And in policing, what is key is your relationships with your colleagues, with your superiors, with your coworkers. And part of establishing those strong relationships means being loyal and being, having the trust of your fellow officers. If your fellow officers don't trust you and don't want to work with you, that becomes a huge problem, right? And so there are officers who I suspect may have been aware of some of this behavior, but were reluctant to come forward because they may not have felt like they would be believed by their superiors, and that coming forward would compromise their own careers, their own jobs, whether that's formally or informally through not having partners who want to work with you. So there is a cost to be paid for those who come forward.
So most people entering the police profession, they enter it with the best intentions. What needs to change for that to be the dominant culture in police departments?
Mm-hmm. I think that is true, that most folks who do come into policing want to do public service and want to do it legitimately, right? I think what needs to happen is that what we need to do is ensure that we have sort of systems in place where when misconduct is seen, that there are not only consequences, but that those consequences, are understood as making policing better, not as, a kind of outside threat to the organization, but that, the commitment of police should be first and foremost to public service, right, and to ensuring that their job is done effectively.
So we have 2 minutes left, and I need to tackle two big things. One of them is, who should lead the change then of the culture?
This is a really good question. I've said, I don't believe that the police should sort of lead this sort of endeavor. And in fact, my belief is that if we are at a time where not only concerns about police behavior, police conduct are being asked, but where broader questions are being asked about the very nature of policing, the very ways in which we deliver public safety to our communities. If those questions are being asked, perhaps this is the perfect time to start from scratch and think about, well, how do we deliver public safety to our communities? How do we ensure that we meet the needs most effectively? What kind of organizations do we need to do that? And what kind of integrity, accountability structures do we need to put in place for that to happen, right? Then we can start with tinkering with the organization and changing this. But I think this is an opportunity for us to actually reimagine how we do what we do in the process of keeping people safe. And so I would hope that we don't miss the opportunity to do perhaps something bigger if in fact we are going to have this whole scale, organizational reordering.
We will have to leave our conversation there, and I'm sure we'll talk again. Thank you very much for your time today.
No problem. Thank you.
That is Timothy Bryan, an assistant professor in the Department of Sociology at the University of Toronto. He researches policing of hate crime and criminal justice reform. We did put in a request to speak with, the police chief here in Winnipeg, and we are hoping that we'll be able to talk to him at some point. We have been told that he wants to be in more detailed discussions with the Justice Minister before he publicly comments again. He, of course, was part of that press conference last week. If you want to read CBC's coverage of this story, cbc.ca/Manitoba is where you can find our coverage. Right now, speaking of coverage, Matt Humphrey's back in with developing news and headlines. Good morning again.
Good morning. The province says it's planning to search the Brady Road landfill for Tanya Nepanak, a missing Winnipeg woman who disappeared more than a decade ago. We're hearing from her family this morning. And the nearly 76% Chinese tariff on Canadian canola seed set to come into effect today. This follows a Canadian tariff on Chinese electric vehicles. Prairie premiers, including our premier, Wab Kinew, along with farmers, have urged the federal government to speak constructively with China to resolve the issue. And also, we're hearing calls to Ottawa for financial help for growers. We'll hear more at 8:30.
All right. Thanks very much, Matt.
Back soon.
Well, the rain has stopped in downtown Winnipeg just for a moment, but man, it poured. So in parts of the city, you're still going to be having rain for sure. It's kind of that kind of a day where this will be on and off, could continue through the afternoon, and we'll see if we get some clearing. A high of 29, though, for today, sticky and feels like 37. But they update the forecast mid-morning, and I suspect we will have to wait and see what's going to come for the rest of the day because this rain came a little earlier than anticipated to the city of Winnipeg. We also, I should mention, have some severe thunderstorm watches that have been issued and warnings that have been issued, and those are for the Parkland region. Just making sure that I have that correct. So if you're up around the Dauphin area, you're going to want to be mindful of that through the day. If you need us in traffic, Sierra was outlining a whole bunch of issues, 788-3093. And she will have your full update after 8 o'clock to tell us where there are still major problems out there this morning. Stay with us. World Report's next.
Today on Q.
I'm Jill Deacon, sitting in for Tom Power. The Juno Award-winning artist Toby talks about why he is intentional about creating music that champions vulnerability and social change.
He's so good. She like he's so good to me.
And how his new album is a mixture of both ego and humility.
Q. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app or wherever you get your podcasts.
The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm Rebecca Zandbergen. U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin are set to talk in Alaska tomorrow. But will the meeting bring the end of the war any closer, especially with Ukraine's president not attending? That's coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Canada's largest airline is expected to start grounding flights today in preparation for a potential flight attendant strike this weekend. Air Canada says it is offering refunds and will do its best to rebook travelers, but more than 100,000 passengers could be affected every day. The CBC's Linda Ward is at Toronto Pearson International Airport this morning. And Linda, what is happening there?
Well, taking a look at the departures board here at Terminal 1, it is business as usual, at least so far, but we know that is definitely going to change through the day. Air Canada says they will be canceling flights today and tomorrow. This all part of a gradual shutdown ahead of a possible strike and lockout if no deal is reached by early Saturday. But travelers here who've been waiting a long time for a vacation aren't letting the uncertainty stop them. I met the Ramos Rachalska family. Mom Ivana says they'll take their chances.
Hopefully they said they could try to shift us with another airline or, we'll just have to repurchase tickets.
So they don't want to miss out. They don't want to disappoint the kids. And they say they're willing to deal with a couple of extra days stranded in Miami if they have to.
What is Air Canada doing for passengers?
Air Canada says they've given passengers the option to change their flight from August 15th to August 18th if that ticket was purchased no later than yesterday for another flight between August 21st and September 12th. Now, if their flight is canceled, they'll try to rebook people on the first available flight with another airline, but remember, this is peak travel season and space is limited. They're saying passengers can also choose a refund. They do have obligations to passengers under passenger protection regulations. They have to communicate flight cancellations through phone, text, email. They have to provide options to get you where you're going within 48 hours. And if they can't do that, they have to offer a refund.
Thanks, Linda.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Linda Ward reporting from Toronto Pearson International Airport. In Newfoundland and Labrador, 4 fires are still burning out of control, and one of them, the Martin Lake Fire near Grand Falls, Windsor, doubled in size yesterday. Thousands of people have been ordered to leave their homes, and that's affecting health care. All elective and day surgeries are postponed in St. John's this week due to staffing concerns. Karen Pauls has more.
Water bombers over the smoky skies of St. John's, hours after police say they're looking for a man in a case of suspected arson. 4 brush fires reported in the city's downtown. Danny Breen is the mayor of St. John's.
Knock it off. There's no need for this right now and adding this much extra worry to people in the city and tying up resources.
Meanwhile, Newfoundland and Labrador Premier John Hogan is imposing a ban on all-terrain vehicles on forested land until Sunday.
We simply cannot afford any further risk.
Fines ranging from $50,000 to $150,000 and possible imprisonment.
I really hope people understand the seriousness.
90 minutes away, where 3,000 people have been evacuated because of the out-of-control Kingston fire, the ATV ban is getting mixed reviews. Gregory Clancy is an evacuee with a dirt bike on the back of his pickup truck.
Some just good people that go out and obey the laws, and then you get idiots that's causing trouble for people that wants to go out and enjoy it. So.
But evacuee Susan Pilgrim says people need to follow the rules.
I mean, we've had 11 fires over the last 3 months. So everybody is thinking in our case that somebody is setting.
While many of the fires continue to grow, there is one bit of good news. Higher humidity in the St. John's area has meant decreased fire activity. Officials hoping the blaze just outside the city will soon be under control. Karen Pauls, CBC News, St. John's, Newfoundland.
More than 100 humanitarian groups are accusing Israel of weaponizing aid to Gaza. They say in a letter the regulations introduced in March have slowed aid to a trickle. Christopher Lockyer is with Doctors Without Borders.
We're hanging on by a thread in terms of essential supplies, medicine. We got a few pallets in a week or so ago, but compared to the need of the entire population of Gaza, what we're getting in is absolutely minuscule.
The aid groups say Israel's registration requirements are designed to erode their independence. They also accuse Israel of censoring humanitarian reporting on the crisis in Gaza. Israel says the rules are there to make sure Hamas does not get the aid. California Governor Gavin Newsom is poised to follow through on his threat for a tit-for-tat gerrymandering. Texas Republicans are still pushing ahead with plans to redraw electoral districts and change the map to favor their party. Now Newsom is about to do the same thing in California so he can give Democrats a boost. Steve Futterman has more.
California's Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom will officially announce today what he plans to do to counter efforts by Republicans in Texas to change the congressional maps.
We are trying to defend democracy as opposed to see it destroyed district by district.
As Texas Republicans continue to try to redraw their congressional maps to possibly get 5 more GOP members into the U.S. House, Newsom says he will fight fire with fire. Normally, state congressional maps are redrawn every 10 years, following the U.S. Census. The last census was in 2020. The redrawings often turn into contentious battles, with the party in power in each state trying to manipulate the map to its advantage. But Texas is trying to do it midway through the normal 10-year cycle, and President Trump is all for it.
We have an opportunity in Texas to pick up 5 seats, and we are entitled to 5 more seats.
Today, Newsom is expected to call for a special election in November. Californians would be asked to approve a new map redrawn to favor Democrats, but this battle could be expanding beyond California and Texas. Other highly partisan states on both sides are now discussing changing their maps as well. Steve Futterman for CBC News, Los Angeles.
Human Rights Watch is denouncing a new law in Peru and accusing the government there of allowing security forces to act with impunity.
Con esta amnistía histórica, el Perú está honrando a sus defensores.
That is Peru's President Dina Boluarte granting amnesty to military and police officers accused of human rights abuses in decades-old conflicts. An estimated 70,000 people were killed between 1980 and 2000 in a war between Peru's military and the Shining Path communist insurgency. More than 150 security officials were sentenced for crimes they committed in that time. But those sentences will now be overturned, and this pardon effectively halts another 600 pending trials. Tropical storm Erin could bring heavy rain and high winds to Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands this weekend and perhaps affect the eastern United States next week. But some people in the U.S. are getting ready for more than the storm. They're worried about how federal cuts will affect the agency that studies and forecasts hurricanes. Katie Nicholson has that story.
I apologize. This is just horrific.
Veteran broadcast meteorologist John Morales broke down on air as Hurricane Milton rapidly intensified off the Florida coast last October. This year, something else is upsetting him.
We're down 560 people in the U.S. National Weather Service. This is not allowing us to release our weather balloons as frequently as we would. Normally at any weather office, they're done twice a day. Now they're down to once or 0 times per day.
The Trump administration cut hundreds of jobs from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and its National Weather Service. Last week, the administration greenlit hiring 450 people at the Weather Service, but it's unlikely they'll be in place in time for peak hurricane season. Morales worries the cuts could impact how many hurricane hunter flights fly into the storms and collect data like they did during Milton.
It's very likely that without that Hurricane Hunter mission, we would have not seen how rapidly the hurricane was intensifying. So that's how crucial this information is, to get the aircraft reconnaissance data feeding constantly.
And accuracy is crucial for emergency managers.
We're tied at the hip with NOAA and the National Weather Service, so they have an actual seat here.
In Miami-Dade County, Pete Gomez walks through the Emergency Management Command Center he oversees.
Well, if we're not getting timely, accurate information, then we can't make timely, accurate decisions
NOAA also shares information with Canada during hurricane season. Environment and Climate Change Canada says it has contingencies, relationships with other national hydrometeorological bodies it can work with. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Miami.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report News Anytime at cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to what's already been a very wet start to Thursday. It's a gray day out there. The streets are calming down with a little bit of light puddling in downtown Winnipeg after some early morning rain. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team here at Information Radio. Sierra Sanders and Abby Adeyemi and Ezeka Abdellatif behind the glass with us here. Thanks for joining us. Well, this half hour on the program, we're going to lighten things up. You've probably been hearing about dirty soda. And if you haven't, you're going to. Chances are good if you're on TikTok, though, you've already heard of it, or if you've seen the show Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Now there are some businesses popping open the tab on the trend in Canada. What is up with dirty soda? Stay tuned. That's coming up this half hour on the show and more. We're going to update you on the wildfire situation in just a moment. Now, with that update, here is Matt Humphrey.
Good morning. An evacuated Manitoba First Nation left in the dark after wildfires knocked out power says the return of residents could be fast-tracked if the community was outfitted with substitute generators. But Manitoba Hydro says it's focusing on infrastructure repairs instead. At the bottom of the hour, we'll hear the response from Puckatawagan leadership. And the province says it's now planning to search the Brady Road landfill for Tanya Nipanak, a missing Winnipeg woman who disappeared more than a decade ago. The Premier says the search will follow the search for Ashley Shingoose, one of 4 women killed by a Winnipeg serial killer in 2022. The search for Nipanak, who went missing in 2011, is in the planning stage. We'll hear the latest at the bottom of the hour.
All right, thank you, Matt.
Back soon.
And now to Abby, who's got our weather forecast in hand.
From south all the way tracking into the northern part of the province, we're seeing more like a warm and humid conditions on its way. Scattered showers still in the forecast, and thunderstorms also will be spread across the central and even into the southern part of the province. This wet weather will be staying with us for most of the morning, and then the afternoon period we'll see the humid conditions kick in. Winnipeg right now is 17. We saw the storms and showers earlier. That seems to have been moving to another parts of the city. Once this tapers off, we'll see a mix of sun and clouds. This is more like that break that we'll get in between systems coming our way. There's still some rain hanging back. We might see a slim chance of showers and thunderstorms sometime in the afternoon again. Then we warm up to 29 degrees. The humidity is going to feel around 37, and most regions down south will even feel around 40 degrees today. Currently, we're seeing 17 degrees across board, but the cool part of the province, look up north. We're seeing 8 in Churchill, 8 in Thompson, 7 in Gillam. The northern part of the province stays kind of cool this morning, while the south will be getting humid and warm as we get into the day. Winnipeg right now, it is 17 degrees, and we're still seeing the tail end of that rain showers outside.
For sure. All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Yeah, still some umbrellas up out the window here. Let's get into the morning commute. It's been really busy, so some things might have changed by now and improved, but Sierra's in with the list.
Good morning. Yes, it has been busy. I remember the first hour saying, oh, it's very slow. It's moving along out there. Oh, little did I know there would be a massive rainstorm that would come. But Richard gave me a call to let me know that the West Perimeter heading north just past Roblin Boulevard there's been a collision and things are moving slow and emergency vehicles are on the scene. So that's the West Perimeter heading north just past Roblin Boulevard there, the overpass there. There's been a collision and things are moving quite slow there on the West Perimeter. So you want to be careful there. And if that is on your main route, that is what is slowing you down there. So be cautious while emergency crews are doing their job and doing what they need to do there. As well, we're still seeing lights out at Cordon Garden and Pembina in all directions. So it was said to expect delays in all directions, and this is true because I got a call from Tommy, and he let me know that the southbound direction is actually seeing a lot of backups. From the looks of it, he mentioned if you're heading downtown, not too many delays, but if you are heading into the south of the city on Pembina there, it is backed up and things are moving slow. It sounded like as he was trying to get onto Pembina, it was backed all the way up to River. So things are moving slow there. So keep that in mind. As well, what else do I have here on my notes? Abinogi Meekinin Waverley, we're still seeing that collision blocking the eastbound middle lane. Be careful if you're passing through there and expect eastbound delays. As well, we're still seeing a hydro outage at Main near Redwood, and it sounds like lights are out at several intersections in that area, and we want to make sure we're treating those areas as a four-way stop. That is everything I have so far in my notes, but if you have any updates on any of these situations or anything else new has popped up, I'd love to know about it. We still have a little bit of time in the show. You can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number is 204-788-3093.
Well, as Matt was just mentioning in the headlines, Puckatawagan residents are eager to return home. They were evacuated nearly 2 months ago, but the community's power grid was destroyed by wildfire this summer. So the deputy chief, Kelly Linklater, says the council was in talks with Manitoba Hydro about getting temporary generators. But just to reiterate here, the Crown Corporation says they want to focus on restoring the power infrastructure. It does mean, though, that community members will not be able to return until mid-September. Let's have a bigger look at this. CBC Santiago Arias Orozco asked Linklater what he thought about Hydro delaying community members' return. And here's part of their conversation.
That's unacceptable because they did that 2 years ago. They were able to do that rather quickly to assist the community in getting power up there. I don't know why the difference. I don't know why they're not doing it this time. It's costing the province more money to have us out here than for us to be for them to set up generators and then start ship us back home. It's disappointing. Community members and leadership were looking forward to a favorable response to our request to have generators set up there for our community members.
Does it come as a surprise to you that this is the decision that they're taking?
It does come as a surprise because, like I said, they did this already. They set up generators like 3 years ago. We had that fire with no issue, right? I don't know what the issue is. I don't know. I have to fix up the whole line before they start sending us back home. Like if they did mention they fixed hydro poles in and around Puck, the immediate area, and then even up to 99 where the generators were 3 years ago. If they fixed the line up to there, then it's not an impossibility to put generators there. So I don't understand the reason why they're not supporting the generators at this time. They're not looking at the best interest of the community, the children, of course, the school. The kids are going to be going back to school soon, and what's the plan? How is Manitoba Hydro going to compensate our community members for being out here because they're unable to get us into the community quicker? There's a power station maybe 50 kilometers north of us. That's where probably half of northern Manitoba is powered from. It's like in our backyard. And if they can't fix it that quick, then their priorities are obviously not with Puckatawagan.
Are you hoping that they reconsider the decision, and are you going to bring this up with Manitoba Hydro?
For sure, yeah, we're going to bring this up. We have to continue talking to ANC, MKO, AFN, the province to assist us in expediting so that Manitoba can move quicker, because we can't, like I said, if the rate they're going, we're going to be out here till October. And how much is that going to cost the province? And is Manitoba Hydro going to be covering the cost for us, for their customers being out here? Put some generators in there and let us go home. Let's get on with our life.
That is Deputy Chief Kelly Linklater in conversation with CBC Santiago Arias Orozco. So they were speaking yesterday about this, and Kelly Linklater, of course, is Deputy Chief of Puckatawaga. His residents are waiting for Heidi to do their work, and they're going to be delayed going home. Now, meantime, this week, other community members from other areas were heading home. The evacuation order for Cormorant was lifted August 11th. Orders as well for Garden Hill, Island Lake, and Little Grand Rapids were lifted on August 12th as evacuees continue their return home. Manitoba, however, does remain under a provincial state of emergency this morning under the Emergency Measures Act because of the wildfires. As you likely know, we're now calling this the worst on record. It is the worst on record in the past 30 years this season, with more than 1.75 million hectares of area burned in our province to date. Now, that provincial state of emergency right now is in place until August 22nd, so another 8 days, but we'll see if it's lifted before then if the situation continues to improve.
The ocean is vast, beautiful, and lawless. I'm Ian Urbina, back with an all-new season of The Outlaw Ocean. The stories we bring you this season are literally life or death. We look into the shocking prevalence of forced labor, mind-boggling overfishing, migrants hunted and captured. The Outlaw Ocean takes you where others won't. Available on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
8:20 is the time right now, and we actually have an extra update on traffic. Now, while Sierra was on just minutes ago, something was updated. The phone started ringing. And who called? What's up?
So I got a call from Andy. He's on the north perimeter at Henderson heading eastbound, and he said that there's been a collision and things are starting to back up there. Drivers might notice a sign as they're approaching the accident saying accident ahead. So they are letting drivers know that there is an accident coming up on the north perimeter at Henderson there as you're heading eastbound. There's been a collision. So things are moving slowly there, Andy mentioned. As well, as soon as I hop off the air, I get a call from Kyle. Thank you, Kyle. He mentioned that the collision that I was talking about, the west perimeter heading north past Roblin, that collision has been cleared. Emergency crews have done what they needed to do, and things are moving along through there. So you should start moving smoothly through there. So that's the west perimeter heading north just past Roblin Boulevard where we saw a collision. It has been cleared. Thank you to Kyle and Andy for calling both of those in and some updates as well. I really appreciate it. I do have one more traffic hit before the end of the show. So if you have any updates or anything else pops up, I'd love to know about it so I can let your fellow commuters know. That number is 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Sierra.
Thank you.
Well, we got to talk about dirty soda. I told you we're going to this half hour, so let's go there. Have you heard about this? It's a beverage. It's trending. It's spreading all over social media, and now apparently it's popping up in Canada. So the drink starts with a can of pop, and basically you add more sugary ingredients mixed in. Dirty sodas were invented in Utah. Their popularity, though, exploded since reality TV show following a group of Mormon women began streaming. CBC's Jason Vio was curious about the drinks and the health implications as well. So he went out to a new outlet in Windsor, Ontario called Sippity Sweet, and he spoke with the owner, Brenda Ritchie.
Might as well go for a soda, nobody hurts and nobody cries.
So we make dirty sodas. You choose your base, which can be pop or energy drinks, and you choose your flavors that you want in it. There's different creams you can put in it. Coconut or sweet cream is what we have. You can do deluxe, which is whipped cream on top and different toppings.
Part of the craze around dirty sodas has been the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives TV show in the States. Have you heard of that?
I've never watched it.
No.
I'm not kidding. So this is nothing to do with that.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I heard it from TikTok.
Okay.
So I saw people making it. At first I was like, cream and soda, but it actually tastes great.
And why did you think this was something that you wanted to pursue as a business?
It's fun. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy seeing people's reactions. They're like, this is great. And just making drinks and kindness goes a long ways. And it's fun.
So you've been open for a little over a week. What's the response been like? What do people say when they walk by or when they come and kind of order something?
They all love it. At first, they're like, cream in a soda, leery, but then they try it. They're like, this is good. Yeah. And I've had repeat customers.
Oh, I think it's great. Yeah, something new and something to try. And the kids love it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because when we go get other, like, Slurpees and stuff, he has to get every color. Yeah. So I was like, well, that's perfect for him. So.
And have you ever heard of dirty sodas or that term before this shop?
Never.
No.
I just online, I saw it, and I was like, what's a dirty soda?
Yeah.
So, and then I checked it out.
So what did you order and what did he order?
He ordered the shark one.
Okay,
and
with
I
the
ordered,
candies in it, right?
Yeah, with the shark candies, of course. And I got the root beer one.
Root beer, okay.
Sipping soda, sipping soda, a sipping soda through a straw. Sipping soda.
So how did you come up with the menu? Because there's some pretty creative kind of drinks on there and combinations.
Just experimenting. The sweet shark splash, my kids helped me with that. You put gummy sharks in it. It's blue raspberry and strawberry. It's delicious with Sprite as the base.
And what is the most popular one? Like, is there one that kind of sticks out or stands ahead of all the rest?
The most popular is Sweet Cherry Storm. It's Dr. Pepper, cherry, vanilla, and sweet cream.
Okay.
The most popular by far.
And before you saw the trend and before you opened this, were you a big soda fan? Like, how would you describe your love for pop?
I do love pop. I've never tried it with cream though, but like I said, I experimented at home with friends and family, and it took off. So I drink a lot of pop now.
Yeah.
So right now we are making the Unicorn Dream Sipper. It's our new featured drink. First, we're going to add the cream soda as the base. Then we'll add 1 splash of strawberry syrup. And we're going to do some cotton candy. And a pump of vanilla. Add some cream into that. Going to stir that all up. And our fun part, the rainbow sprinkles.
At first I thought it was disgusting, I'm not gonna lie, like cream and soda, but once you try it, you're shocked. It's like, take the root beer one for example, it's like a root beer float. It's delicious.
Yeah.
I'm Dr. Tom Warshawski, and I'm chair of the Childhood Healthy Living Foundation based in Vancouver, British Columbia. One of the biggest drivers for unhealthy weight gain is excess sugar consumption. The World Health Organization, they set a recommendation of no more than 100 to 200 calories per day from what we call free sugars, which is the simple sugars we're thinking about when we're talking about pops, iced teas, juices, and these dirty pop drinks. But these products, this amount of sugar is a risk factor for ill health regardless of body weight. So it's not like you can say, well, I'm pretty slender, I can drink as much sugar as I want. In fact, you can't. It's an independent risk factor for type 2 diabetes and heart disease. And once it's linked up with unhealthy weight gain, it's linked with 13 different cancers, hypertension, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. So they are problematic if taken to excess. Certainly, it might be fun to get out there with friends and socialize and have a dirty soda, which is just laden with stuff, which is quite frankly not good for you, but not horribly bad for you if it's once a month. The problem with sugary drinks as a product are for those individuals that drink sugary drinks every day. And Canada has a group, like it's almost 2 groups of people, some that hardly ever drink sugary drinks, others that drinking 500 mils, 600 mils per day. That's dangerous level of sugary drink consumption. Consumers need to be aware that this drives unhealthy weight gain like nobody's business. The body tends not to compensate for liquid calories. So if you're having a pizza with a dirty soda beside you, you'll eat as much pizza as if you were drinking water. Well, guess what? All those dirty soda calories are going to go right to your waistline. So be very, very cautious with this treat.
A lot of soda pop songs. Who knew there were so many? Have you had a dirty soda yet? It's sure been the talk of the town and the talk of the country. That was Dr. Tom Warshawski from the Childhood Health Living Foundation, by the way, at the end. We also heard in that piece from Brenda Ritchie at Sippity Sweet in Windsor, Ontario. And if you want to check out the article that's been done on these drinks there and see all the colorful pictures, cbc.ca/Windsor is where you can check it out. We're coming up to news time here in Manitoba at 8:30 with Matt Humphrey, so stay tuned for that. We will mention that we had an update to a traffic situation here. So the collision now eastbound Abinogi, Mi'kmaq, and Waverley has been cleared, and we understand things are moving smoothly now. So That is good news. That had been an issue throughout the morning here. So the collision eastbound Abinogi-Meekinaw Waverly is clear. Let us know if you see anything. I know it's late in the drive here. We'll get it on before the end of the show if we do have a problem. 788-3093. I want to mention, speaking of calling and numbers, the noon call-in today. And it's between 12:30 and 1 on Radio Noon. Guest host Lori Hoogstraten is sitting in the chair today, and she's here to answer gardening questions. So we're in a different season of the summer now, and you might be wondering, what do I do? These plants look kind of moggy. Do I dig them out? Do I deadhead them? Can I plant new? What do I do with my trees this fall? So we're getting into that time of the year. So they always have a regular gardening column, and they have it, at different points. But right now it's the Midsummer Gardening Call-In, and that's between 12:30 and 1 o'clock. If you have questions or comments, you can bring them here to CBC into the airwaves. And Lori will be joined by a special guest who will have all of the answers for you. If you want to call now and you can't make it to the call-in between 12:30 and 1, but you have a question you want to get in on and you'll listen back later, you can call in the listener line, and that is on Radio Noon. So it's a different number than the morning listener line. It's 788-3797, 788-3797. I'm Marcy Marcusa, and your CBC Winnipeg News is next.
This is CBC News. At 8:30, we're at 17 degrees with rainy conditions over downtown Winnipeg. Things should continue to clear up throughout the day. Good morning. I'm Matt Humphrey. Manitoba's premier says the province will at long last search for the remains of Tanya Nepanak. Nepanak was 31 when she went missing in 2011. Police believe she was killed and ended up in the Brady Road landfill on Winnipeg's south perimeter. Nepanak's aunt, Sue Caribou, has spent years pushing for the landfill to be searched more extensively.
I continue to advocate so she's not forgotten. She's still a landfill in a pile of trash where no human being should be left.
Premier Wab Kinew says the search is still in its planning stages. He says they'll begin by looking for the remains of Ashley Shingoose. She is one of 4 First Nations women who died at the hands of a serial killer in 2022. The leaders of a northern Manitoba First Nation are blaming a decision by Manitoba Hydro for keeping them out of their homes. Wildfires knocked out power in Puckatawagan 2 months ago. The community has requested substitute generators while infrastructure repair work finishes. Without power, Puckatawagan's evacuation order is expected to stay in place, one of the longest in the province. Manitoba Hydro says instead it's focused on restoring the electric grid. Peter Chira is with the corporation.
We need the logistics, we need the resources available to repair the damage and get the power restored. And we are confident that our efforts are best directed, that our resources are best directed toward moving the crews and material that we need into the community to fix the power properly than to move generators.
Puckatawagan's leadership says the decision is not acceptable. Again, the First Nation is under one of the longest running evacuation orders in our province. Shock and uncertainty. That's what canola farmers in Manitoba are feeling after China announced a nearly 76% tariff on canola. That's set to go into effect today. The Canadian seed crop is mostly grown on the prairies. Warren Ellis is chair of the Manitoba Canola Growers Association, which has about 7,500 members. Yesterday, he was asked how members are reacting to the news.
I think shock. I don't think they've had enough time to actually figure it out. They don't know what it means. I mean, I don't know what it means, quite frankly. We're only 2 days in, I think, and we've got a lot to figure out really, how serious is this? Will there be help coming?
Ellis says harvest season is about to start, and not having their second largest customer on board will make it difficult to pay back the financing they've had to take out to grow this year's crop. Premier Kinew is urging the federal government to provide immediate financial help. Advocates say survivors of intimate partner violence with traumatic brain injuries have nowhere to go for help after a Winnipeg pilot program ended earlier this summer. The program was run through the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority and the concussion program at the Pan Am Clinic. It served Manitoba and Nunavut residents, with most flying into Winnipeg from Northern First Nations and Inuit communities. Karen Mason is the founder and executive director of SOAR, a nonprofit supporting survivors of violence-caused brain injuries. She says the Winnipeg program was the only one of its kind in Canada.
This program that was centered out of Winnipeg and was serving survivors in Manitoba and in Nunavut, where the risk of violence is so high, it was unique in Canada. There was nothing like this that was directly providing medical care directed at survivors of intimate partner violence-caused brain injury. So it's an incredible blow that it has been shut down.
The Winnipeg Regional Health Authority says the pilot ended because its trial period was over and it had limited space and resources. The province says it's encouraging the health authority to find a new long-term space for that program. And finally, about 140 fur pelts have been stolen from Fort Gibraltar. Staff say the thief must have climbed over the fort gates and smashed the windows out of the cabin which contained the furs. Brianne Lavalley-Heckert is the head of Festival de Voyageurs. She says the stolen pelts were worth thousands of dollars and made up about 75% of their collection.
They're part of our repertoire and everything that we've got in Fort Gibraltar, and it's how kids learn about animals in the fur trade, and it's our school program where we have 10,000 kids who go to the fort every year, and it's just a real loss for our community to have these furs taken.
Hackert says there are markings on the pelts, including the letters FDF, Festival de Voyageurs, the festival's logo, and the name of the animal the fur was taken from, written in French. A report has been filed with police, and you are asked to keep your eyes peeled for those missing furs. And that's your CBC News from Winnipeg.
All right, thanks, Matt.
Thanks for the morning, Mars.
You as well. That's Matt Humphrey filling in our news department. Also, thanks for the morning to Bryce Hoy, Chris Armstrong, and Megan Ketchison out in our news department. The associate producers who worked on our show today, Chidi Ikuma, as well as Issa Kixon. Shanley Vidal is our community reporter, and Jenna Badosso. Thanks to everyone. Our live team is Ezeka Abdelatif, who is behind the controls of our YouTube. Thanks, Ezeka. As well as Abby Adeyemi, who we're going to hear from in weather in a moment, and Sierra Sanders, who's here with traffic. And I should thank our producers. Corey Funk is acting in a producer role, and then also Nellie Gonzalez, who right now is acting senior producer of audio at CBC Manitoba. And here's Sierra now with updates.
Good morning. I got a call from Shelley. She's on her way in from Camp Morton. She let me know that southbound Salter at Mountain, there's no lights, and she said it was backed up all the way to Leela. So it sounds like things are moving a little bit slow there. Southbound Salter and Mountain, there are no lights, and it was pretty backed up there. Thank you so much, Shelley, for that. As well, we're still seeing that collision at the North Perimeter at Henderson that's heading eastbound. There was a collision there, and it sounded like it was pretty backed up, and it still looks to be pretty backed up. So that's an accident, northbound perimeter at Henderson heading eastbound. Finally, still seeing those lights out at Corden and Pembina. Make sure you're treating that as an all-way stop, as you should with every light you encounter that is flashing. Expect delays there, and I remember Tommy giving me a call mentioning that southbound was seeing a lot of backups, and I did get a call from someone else letting me know southbound was pretty backed up. So hopefully you get to where you need to go safely, and we'll do it all over again tomorrow. Go Blue!
Abby.
Yeah, the clouds are clearing out. We're going to see humid conditions, well isolated afternoon showers and thunderstorms on its way. We'll warm up to 31 in most of the regions, and this northern part will stay wet and cool.
Well, hopefully for tonight for the Bomber game, weather will be good. Take care, everybody. Thanks for listening. The Current's next on CBC.
I'm going in to speak to Vladimir Putin, and I'm going to be telling him, you got to end this war, you got to end it.